Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What's Open Mic? Well, that's a fair question. See, every day, Monday through Friday on the John Campea Show, we take time for live questions. But here on the weekends, that's all we do on Open Mic is nothing but live questions to talk about the things that you guys want to talk about. I hope you guys have been having a great weekend so far. I know I've had a great weekend so far. We went out to Anne's family's place last night, watched some UFC fights, had a great dinner, good relaxing time, spent time with my dogs, had a good morning this morning with Anne. We got our new Oculus Quest, so we're playing a little bit of, what's it called, Beat Saber. So we're playing a little bit of Beat Saber on the Oculus this morning, and that was a lot of fun. And I got a good rest of the day planned ahead of me. By the way, guys, don't forget, for those of you who have seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we are going to be doing an open spoiler discussion of that movie at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this afternoon. So if you want to come back and talk a little bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the new Quentin Tarantino film, come on back and join us. But be warned, it will be all open spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to avoid that thing. Okay. With all that out of the way, let's now jump in and start with the reason that we're here, taking live questions. So we're going to go things over, and we're going to start off with Superman Steve, who writes, who is your absolute favorite actor of all time? You know what? For a long time, it was Peter O'Toole. I love Peter O'Toole. I love watching his old movies, especially Lawrence of Arabia, my favorite year, on and on. But I got to say, the greatest actor of all time is Daniel Day-Lewis. But I honestly think, and this is not a popular thing to say, it's not a popular thing to say, but I really do think Russell Crowe is my all-time favorite actor. It's not that every one of his movies are great, but he's great in everything he's in. And I just find watching him in just about anything is totally worth watching. So I'm going to say my favorite actor of all time is Russell Crowe. Alex Pitt writes, the dolphin scene in The Boys was hilarious. Yes, it was. I can't discuss it, obviously, because I don't want to give spoilers away for people who are just getting started on the show. But The Boys is awesome. I binged the entire first season in one day. I couldn't stop watching it. I loved it. And the dolphin scene, for those of you who've seen the show, the dolphin scene is absolutely hilarious. All right, Gaetan Fowl writes, hey, John, you forgot me yesterday. You read my name only, LOL. Really? Anyway, really? Did that happen? Anyway, I was just saying that It Chapter 2 was officially 2 hours and 45 minutes long. Wow. That's kind of long for a horror movie. Maybe a little bit too long. Like, I am curious, so what was the runtime of It? Now, It was 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that's like a full half hour longer. I don't know, man. I gotta say, that might make me a little bit nervous. That makes me a little bit nervous. That seems like it might be a little bit dragged out. But then again, it's impossible to say until we see the movie. But I gotta say, I'm not thrilled with that runtime, but who knows? Maybe I'll watch the movie and go, this was the exact right time. You know what else is 2 hours and 45 minutes? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Should have been 45 minutes shorter. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we'll talk more about that later. I liked it quite a bit, as a matter of fact. But it was absolutely 45 minutes too long. It absolutely could have shaved 45 minutes off that movie. It was too long for that movie. And I'm afraid of that for It Chapter 2. But who knows? We'll have to just wait and see. That's interesting. All right. James L.H. writes, hey, John, last super chat 2 weeks ago from hospital after heart. Oh, I remember that. Been home 10 days watching a lot of John Campea. As a regular cinema goer, it's frustrating not being for 2 weeks. Going finally to see Lion King. Although stuck at home, finally binged The Office. Oh, really? So you just got around to watching The Office the first time? I see what all the fuss is about. I can finally understand the conversation when you talk The Office. You and Michael Scott have kept me entertained. Well, okay, first of all, congratulations on getting out of the hospital, home, recovering. I've been there. I've done that. And, just follow the doctor's instructions. You're going to actually find it's very doable. You're going to do well in your recovery. It does suck when you can't go to the theater for a couple of weeks. You're finally going to be able to get on Lion King. Now you're going to see why I think it's one of the best movies of the year, even if some other people don't, and that's fine. It's all subjective. It's certainly a lot better than some of the other Disney movies they've been putting out, like Dumbo and Nutcracker, Four Realms, Wrinkle in Time. But I think they've come back with a vengeance with this Lion King thing. And they've been doing pretty well lately, too. I really liked Aladdin, stuff like that as well. So good on you for that. And yes, good on you for getting on The Office. And now it's really funny, like, when people watch The Godfather for the first time, and then they go, oh my God, now I totally see why everybody talks about The Godfather. It's like that, right? And I feel kind of that same way about The Office. Like when somebody's never seen The Office or Parks and Rec or Seinfeld, it's always fun when people get to watch that for the first time. So that's great. So it sounds, James, like even though you've kind of been, out of the rotation for a little bit, at least you're making some good productive use of your time checking out The Office. That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. All right, speedy, successful recovery, my friend. Speedy, successful recovery. All right, Taki75 writes, while the Scarlet Witch talk is interesting, Derrickson has said multiple times that the villain in Doctor Strange will be Nightmare. Yes, however, that doesn't really mean much. That doesn't really mean much. Now look, do I think that Scarlet Witch will be the villain in Doctor Strange 2? No. If I had to put $5 on it, no. But just because a director of a movie says one thing, especially in something like the MCU, remember, we were told for a long time that the next Captain America movie is going to be Captain America Serpent Society. And then they revealed that that was a big misdirect. It was actually going to be Civil War. So I would say, number one, it could be a misdirect. Number two, you're assuming that if Nightmare is the villain, that means there can be no other villain. Right? Again, I agree. I don't think Scarlet Witch will be the villain in Doctor Strange 2. I don't think she will. However, having Derrickson, who I've had in my studio before, great guy, by the way, say that the villain is Nightmare, well, that by logic does not necessarily exclude the fact that Scarlet Witch could also be a villain or could be the villain. It could be a misdirect, unlikely, but possible. But even if it's not a misdirect, that doesn't preclude the chance that she could also be a villain in the film. Again, it's not what I think will happen. I'm just saying that Derrickson saying that does not exclude the possibility of that actually still happening. So that's all I'm saying. And it is interesting talk, Taki. It is interesting talk. I agree. All right. Noel Nguyen writes, idea. Netflix has cheaper tier for weekly episodes release while keeping the current tier just for bingers. Could work, but spoilers could be bad. No, I disagree, Noel. I want to, first of all, different tiers? No. First of all, I'm not a fan of different tiers in general. There are some things where different tiers is good, but in general, I just like, hey, this is the plan. But again, if the whole point, like if you're a binger, then wait till the season's over and then watch the whole season. We've all done that. But I don't want to wait. Well, okay then, but the whole reason Netflix would move, now remember, I'm a binger. I prefer, personally, for my own viewing habits, I really enjoy them dropping a whole season at once. Like Amazon just did for The Boys, and boom, I just motored through that thing. One day. But the smarter business thing for them to do is to go week after week, because that gets a lot more buzz going, it gets more sustained buzz going, and it gets more people on board with the show. Again, I'll go back to the example of Doom Patrol. If Doom Patrol dropped all at once, I probably never would have watched it. Because what happens? An episode drops, the first episode drops, and everybody loves it, and they're all talking about it. And I got people telling me, John, you should check out Doom Patrol. Oh my God, Doom Patrol's so good, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I don't get around to watching it that week, and I didn't. Then the next week, the next episode comes out, and that's a brand new episode. Now everybody again is talking about Doom Patrol. Oh my God, Doom Patrol's so good, John. Gotta check out Doom Patrol. Okay, fine. But I still didn't get a chance to get around to watching it. Then the third week, the third episode of Doom Patrol dropped. And again, everybody's like, oh my God, Doom Patrol, because a new episode just dropped again. Oh my God, Doom Patrol, blah, blah, Doom Patrol. Okay. And then after week after week after week of people keep talking about it, then I decided to finally check it out, and I got hooked on it immediately. And my experience is not unique. There's a lot of people that hear people week after week, but what's the problem? You know what nobody's talking about anymore? Stranger Things Season 3. No one talks about it anymore. Because it dropped, everybody watched it in the first week, and then all the talk about it is done. Nobody talks about Stranger Things anymore. And so, if they had dropped Doom Patrol all at once, I probably never would have gone around seeing it, because everybody would have talked about it for a few days, about how great it was and all that kind of stuff, but then everybody's done talking about it, and it's not talked about anymore, and I never would have gotten on board with it. But it was a sustain. It's the same thing with Chernobyl. There was not a lot of people were going to check out Chernobyl, but then Chernobyl, first episode drops. Everybody buzzes. And then a week later, another new episode drops, and everybody buzzes again. And then the next week, another new episode drops, and it's a sustained buzz that happens, and it gets more people on board with the show. And I don't buy this multi-tiered things for regular subscribers. You get all at once. No, because then you're going to, like you said, spoilers could be, it would be tragic. It would be tragic. The only way that would work is if you held off on dropping the whole season until after the week-by-week people watch it. But then that's what you just have anyway. Why have a separate tier? So, it's like, for me, I'm like you. I prefer binging. But if it's really important to me to just binge a whole show in the first week or two, then just wait till the season's done. You can't have binge for one and week after week for the other, because then everything's going to get spoiled for people. And that kind of goes against the whole idea of why they would go to a week to week in the first place. To build buzz for their shows, to get more people to check those shows out with longer sustainability, with longer stretches, periods of buzz. Because instead of people buzzing it for 1 week and then it's gone, they could buzz about it for 2.5 months. You know, if it's 10 episodes, 2.5 months. Boom, boom, boom. People talking about it week after week after week after week. Gets more people on board. So I really do think in the next couple of years, you're going to see Netflix start to experiment with dropping some episodic week by week stuff. And then I think within 4 years, I think Netflix is going to move entirely to that. I really do. And while it's not the way I like to watch it, it's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. So I don't see multi-tier stuff going in there, Noel. I'll be honest with you. I don't see how that works. That just causes more problems than anything else. And if you're somebody that likes to binge like me, if you really want to watch it that way, well, then just wait till the season's over and then binge it. But anyway, that's just a lot of different opinions on this whole Netflix thing. A lot of different opinions. That's just the way I see it, though, Noel. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, man. All right, Noel follows up with, what was your earliest movie experience? My dad took me to see Terminator 2 when I was 4 to 5 years old. Loved action movies ever since. My earliest movie experience and my earliest childhood memory is the same age range as you, but going to see Star Wars. I think I was 4 at the time. 4 or 5, and I remember that. And I have no other memory after that till I'm like 8 or 9 or 10. It's weird. I have no memory of anything between 5 and like 8 years old, but I remember that, my mom taking me to see Star Wars, and almost nothing after that for like 4 or 5 more years after that. James LH writes, Rutger Hauer, love Blade Runner, first seen him in Lady Hawk, which I love. Also my first film of Michelle Pfeiffer. Really? Oh, that's kind of cool. We heard on the 24th he passed, which was my late mom's birthday. Oh, really? He was her movie crush. Yeah, we talked a lot about Rutger Hauer this past week with the passing of Rutger Hauer. And actually, we were talking, James, about how when a lot of people think of Rutger Hauer, they think of Blade Runner. Understandably so. When I think of Rutger Hauer, I think of Lady Hawk. With Michelle Pfeiffer, Matthew Broderick as well. Totally cheesy movie, but for whatever reason, it holds a very beloved place in my heart. A very, very beloved place in my heart. So, and actually, that's really interesting too. That Rutger was your mom's movie crush, and that was her birthday. That's actually really special. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, James. That's really special. All right, Tom Gillard writes, Saw Annabelle 3, and during a jump scare, someone farted loudly. As I was leaving the theater, the woman walking behind me said to her friend that she thinks she pooped her pants. Well, you know what? Seriously, we've all heard girls talk like when they laugh so hard they pee a little, right? I don't understand women's biology. Let's be clear, but I've heard many girls say, "I laugh so hard that I peed a little," or I jumped so hard because I'm scared they peed a little. But as a guy, I can totally relate to you. If a real big jump scare gets you, maybe you just fart. I could see that happening. But oh my God, if I was in a theater and a jump scare happened and you heard like a really loud rip fart going, I would instantly turn 12 years old and just start laughing my head off. I would probably just start laughing my head off. She thinks she pooped her pants. That's all. I love movies, man. This is part of the reason why. Really, farting and pooping your pants? Yes, this is part of the reason why the movie-going experience will always be the best. I honestly don't know how long the theatrical movie-going experience will be around. Whether it's going to be another 10 years, another 20 years, another 50 years. But it's going to be a really bad day, however far in the future it is, when the movie theater experience ends and just everybody watches everything at home. That's going to suck, because the movie-going experience is the best. I get excited every day that I'm going to a movie, that I know I'm going to a movie later that day. It's a good day for me. There's something about going to the theater, with whether it's with Ann or with one of my friends, or whether it's to a screening or whatever. I've got a little bit of a skip of my step every day that I know I'm going to a movie later on tonight. Going into the theater, taking your seat, surrounded by other film fans. It's just on a true, you can talk all you want about you have a big screen at home. Sure. You're going into a place with a real big screen and real sound, and just with the audience and the crowd. And to me, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And even somebody come out saying, "I think I pooped my pants," is part of that experience, my friend. Anyway, Clever to Swear writes, interesting fact. Yesterday, you got a super chat from the Real Movie. Oh, this is true, actually. You got a super chat from the Real Movie Trivia Schmodown YouTube channel asking you when you will return behind the announcer's desk. You gave a definitive never. #awkward for them. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, people can make their usernames anything they want. And I've seen people use usernames like AMC something or Schmodown something, but it's not really AMC or Schmodown. So somebody with the username yesterday, like Movie Trivia Schmodown, came on yesterday's open mic, and they wrote something like, "Hey John, when are we going to get you? When are we going to see you behind the announcer's table again at a Schmodown?" Right? And what I said at the time, for those of you who weren't here, what I said at the time was, I loved doing the announcer stuff. It was always fun. It was always fun. And I loved doing it with Christian, particularly loved when it was me, Christian, and Mark, the three of us. But I loved doing it with Christian when he and I would call matches together. Some of the best calls ever. Always had a good time with it. And I love what Christian's doing with Schmodown now. I said, but, even though Schmodown is technically its own thing now, Christian still works for the last place that I worked at. And a number of people that are involved with Schmodown still work at the last place that I worked at. And, no trash talking here. Just, you guys just know I'm in a place that I really want to disassociate myself and not have any confusion. Because surprisingly enough, to this day, I still, every week, get messages from some people going, "Hey, wait a minute, you're not at that place anymore?" It's been 2 years, but I still get it. So I just want, I made a decision for myself not to have any confusion there. So I said, as much as I love what Christian's doing with Schmodown, as much as I used to love doing that with him, fact of the matter is, as long as there's that association, it's not something I'm going to do. So no, I won't be back. I'm going to sit back from afar and cheer on. Christian and Schmodown and all the stuff that they're doing. I'm going to cheer it on, but I'm not going to be part of it myself, just so you know. Well, what happened was, then yesterday afternoon, me and my wife were driving out to her family's place. And Ann was driving, so I got my phone out. And I got a text message from Christian, from Harloff. And Christian goes, just so you know, that message about you doing announcer stuff at Schmodown, that was me. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. So that was actually Harloff. That was actually Harloff yesterday writing that in. Now, just so you know, because you write hashtag awkward for them, it's not awkward because Christian and I have had this conversation before. Like, Christian knows all this already, right? Christian knows I love doing Schmodown with him. Christian knows that I love what they're doing now with Schmodown and the whole bit. Christian knows all that, and Christian also knows that I can't be a part of that just for association thing. It's just a professional choice I made for myself, you know, all that kind of stuff. He already knew that. He already knew that. So I didn't say anything that surprised him at all. But just so you know, that was actually Harloff yesterday that wrote that in. So there's that. And of course, I mean, Christian and I just had lunch together last week, but so he decided to jump in there and throw that in there. Anyway, that son of a bitch. Okay, so no, it wasn't awkward, actually. It wasn't awkward because he knows my position on that already. All right, good observation, though, Clever to Swear. Okay, Clever to Swear follows up with your favorite, Chaplin, Buster Keaton, or Harold Lloyd. Actually, Chaplin. You know, Chaplin, a lot of people, everybody knows who Chaplin is. But actually, very few people have ever watched anything of Chaplin's. When you watch Chaplin's stuff, you realize he was so ahead of his time. He was so ahead of his time. So I go with Chaplin. Clever to Swear, it's Jane Fonda, hottest 81-year-old ever. Yep. And the one that will challenge her, I think, is whenever Helen Mirren hits 81. Because, hold on a sec. Hey, Google, how old is Helen Mirren? Let's find this out here.
Helen Mirren is 74 years old.
Okay, because right now, Helen Mirren's the hottest 74-year-old on the planet. And when she hits 81, maybe she'll take that title. I don't know, but Jane Fonda looks great for 81. Clever to Swear writes, have you ever watched a live improv show comedy? Oh, yeah, a lot of my friends have been stand-up comedians. I've gone to a ton of stand-up shows, absolutely. Clever to Swear also writes, see you in 8 hours, John. Oh, because you wrote this in earlier today. Well, here we are. So thanks for sending all that in, Clever to Swear. R Squared Games writes, one of two. I know Endgame became #1 at the box office because of the 22 preceding films, but it also did it in spite of them. No, that's not true at all. What they've done is remarkable. No other franchise could withstand a 2 to 3 film per year release cycle over the course of a decade without fatigue setting in. But okay, so here's the thing, R Squared. What you just said in the second part of your message contradicts what you said in the first part of your message. You cannot say it did it in spite of them, because that's suggesting that they did all these films before and none of them were successful, and yet it came out and was successful. That's in spite of them. All right? All you're really saying is that the MCU is extremely successful. Now look, you know how I feel about this. Don't give me any excuses about the #1 movie of all time, right? Fact of the matter is, Avengers Endgame is the #1 box office film of all time right now. Now, there are Avatar supporters, and I like Avatar, but there are Avatar hardcore supporters who will say, well, it's not really the #1 because Avatar, if you look at inflation, Avatar made more at the box office than Endgame. Don't give me that. There's dozens of variables that you could take into consideration. Bottom line, Endgame is the #1 box office movie of all time. Period. And when Avatar gets re-released by Disney, because Disney will re-release Avatar at some point, make no mistake about it, to help advertise Avatar 2, to say, come back to the world that gave you the #1 box office movie of all time, Disney's going to do that. Make no mistake. When Disney re-releases Avatar, I don't want to hear Endgame supporters crying, well, it's not really #1 because they did a re-release. Zip it. #1 is #1. No excuses. There's all these variables. Now, yes, it's true. The one thing that people have made an argument about on either side that is, hey, yeah, that's true, is this argument of, some people say, well, Avatar was a true movie. It was a true standalone movie. It had to be, the movie started, the story of it started when the movie started and ended. It introduced us to the characters, it introduced us to the world, it set up the narrative, it did the main body of the story, and it had its conclusion all in one movie. It didn't have 21 other movies building up to it with 35 big Hollywood stars starring in it over the course of an 11-year build up to it. That's true. That is true. I respect that because that is true. Endgame, because look, if the MCU hadn't existed and Marvel just decided they were going to start making movies in 2019, and their first movie was this big movie called Endgame, would it have made $2.7 billion? Oh, fuck no. Of course it wouldn't have. No, in no world would it have happened. Would it have hit $1 billion? Maybe. You got all those stars, big sci-fi epic, blah, blah. It might have hit $1 billion. Might have joined the $1 billion club. But if Endgame was the first movie of the MCU and it didn't have 21 films, 11 years, 35 big major movie stars, blah, 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 all building up to it, if Endgame was really a standalone movie, would it have done anywhere near the business of Avatar? No, it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have. That doesn't change the fact, though, that bottom line, Endgame is the #1 film of all time. Yes, Avatar would have been beaten a long time ago if it didn't have a re-release. Yes, if you took inflation into consideration, Endgame wouldn't be the #1 film right now. I get all those arguments, but it doesn't matter. Bottom line, Endgame, #1 film. However, the one argument I think you have to respect, even if it doesn't change the bottom line, and the bottom line is, as of right now, Endgame is the #1 worldwide film of all time, period. It doesn't change it, but I do think you have to at least tip your cap and acknowledge that there is truth to the notion that, hey, Avatar had no buildup, had no anything, it was a standalone movie, and it made $2.7 billion on its own. Endgame, as much as I love the MCU, to the point that brain-dead idiots think I'm actually on Disney's payroll, I love the MCU, but if Endgame had just been released as a true standalone movie, like Avatar was, there's no way in hell it would have ever sniffed $2 billion, let alone 2.7, 2.8 billion. Never would have happened. But that is what happened, right? It did have a 21 film buildup. It did have an 11-year buildup. It did have like 30 plus major stars in it. And the bottom line is it broke the all-time record. It is what it is. But no, R squared, I got to disagree with you, man. It did not do it in spite of that. You can only say it did it in spite of that if the 21 films preceding it were failures. If the 21 films and 11 years preceding Endgame were failures or disappointments, then you could say that Endgame accomplished it in spite of that. Because as you point out in the second part of your thing, the MCU itself is something that we've never seen at this level in the film industry before. It's not even at this level. We've never seen anything like that in the MCU before, and it has been ridiculously successful. It has been a huge triumph. It has had nothing but positive momentum going, and Endgame is the beneficiary. Endgame is ultimately the beneficiary of all that success and all that momentum. And that's awesome. So, again, it doesn't change the bottom line, but for me as a fan, I have to at least go, you know what? Tip of the cap. You're right. You're right. Avatar did it on its own. Avatar was a single standalone movie that broke the all-time worldwide record. And it's impressive that what it ultimately took to finally beat it, because no standalone movie could. It ultimately took a film that had a 21 movie, 11 year, 35 big movie star build-up to do it. But it did it. And it doesn't change, even though that's true and we tip our cap, it doesn't change the fact. The bottom line, it's the number one film until Disney re-releases it yet again. But anyway, interesting way of looking at R-squared. You're looking at it from a little bit of a different angle. I appreciate that. All right, Clever to Swear writes, I cringe when I see Elon Musk delving into memes. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know who Elon Musk is. I'm not familiar with any of that. Clever to Swear writes, to rest your voice, I give you permission to have 10 seconds of awkward silence starting now. Well, unfortunately, that wouldn't help anybody watching the show, so I'll take a pass on the 10 seconds, but that's very thoughtful of you, Clever. I appreciate that. And then Clever also follows, I hope that helped you, assuming you did it. Well, you know what? Don't worry, guys, because one of the nice things about here on Open Mics is that every hour I do take a 5-minute break. And you guys have always been very generous and courteous to allow me to take that 5-minute break every hour and 15 minutes to, rest my vocal cords for a couple of minutes, refill my drink, all that kind of stuff. And you guys have always been very accommodating to me for that on Open Mic, and I really appreciate that. All right, Frank writes, I think Lady Thor is a direct result of the multiverse. I don't believe for a second she's taking over the mantle. It also explains Mjolnir returning. It's possible, but again, that's why I hate multiverse so much, Frank. I hate multiverse. To me, it's the bottom of the barrel lazy man story writing. Because instead of coming up with a creative ways to solve narrative problems, just go, well, wait a minute, we can't do A because A doesn't make any sense in our universe. I know, let's just make a multiverse, and that way there are no rules, anything can happen. And I find that lazy. So could they do that as a direct result of multiverse? Maybe, but that still leaves a lot of questions unanswered, Frank. Because Jane was not born on Asgard. Jane is not the child of the All-Father Odin. So you would still have to answer those questions. How does Jane, a girl from Earth, become Thor? When Thor is not a title, Thor is the kid's name. Just like Loki is that kid's name. Just like Heimdall was that kid's name. Just like Sif was that girl's name. I mean, it's his name. So I'll just say this. I really hope, because I think this whole thing with the MCU using multiverse and time travel, while it has yielded some great results, I really want them to move away from it very quickly. I'm hoping the Doctor Strange movie, Multiverse of Madness, I hope that movie is about them closing off the multiverse and ending this ridiculousness. I hope. Probably not true, but I do hope. But I don't think it. I mean, it's possible, Frank, that it's a multiverse thing. But if it is, I'm going to be honest with you. If it turns out Jane is just a multiverse Jane, I'm probably going to skip Thor 4. And I love the Thor franchise, but if it turns out that it's just, hey, look, here's a new Jane, and this one's from a different line of the multiverse, and she's got Thor powers now, and she's coming in, I'm probably going to pass on it. Now, it's easy for me to say that now. It might be more difficult for me to say that because I'm such a fan of the Thor films. It might be harder for me to say that as we're actually approaching the release of the movie. But yeah, from where I'm sitting right now, if I find out that's what it is, it's just yet another lazy man's thing. Oh, we can't think of anything. Oh, let's just pretend this and bring this in from a multiverse thing. I might take a pass on Thor. I might. Yeah, sure, Campea, you say that now. Yeah, it's probably true. All right, Willow Yang writes, how is your script for Jar Boy coming along? Very well. I'm already on page 94. I've already on page 94 since yesterday. Was working very hard all night. I'm telling you what, that Jar Boy, I just made it up on the spot. The more I'm thinking about it, that could actually make a really good script. I'm going to have to think about that, Willow. All right, Jesse Lopez writes, what's your favorite interpretation of Bane? None. If you're talking about on screen, I've never been really happy with any on-screen incarnation of Bane. Tom Hardy's was good, but they've never been able to really capture that Bane character in the Nightfall series in the comics, when, Batman gets his back broken by Bane, that Bane, they've never captured it. They've either made him some kind of mindless Hulk, like they did in the Schumacher movie, or they've made him just a glorified henchman like they did in Dark Knight Rises, who is also very understandable. Oh, Mr. Wayne, lunch is ready in the tea room. Don't get me wrong, I liked Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I did, but they've never... I don't think they've ever come close to doing the character justice. Bane is not just the big physical threat. He is a genius. And they've never been able to really capture those elements. So I gotta say, honestly, the answer is none. I've never been happy with any incarnation of Bane on the screens at this point. It's the one character nobody's really been able to seem to crack yet at this point. All right. Hands of Stone writes, who did you prefer, Captain Picard or Almost as Adama? Ooh. Oh, man. Because Almost as Adama, Admiral Adama, is obviously a part of Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica, which is my all-time number one favorite television show. All-time number one favorite television show. And by the way, Edward is also on The Mayans now, which is the Sons of Anarchy spin-off show. It's awesome seeing him on there, too. Anyway. To me, Battlestar Galactica is the better show than Star Trek Next Generation. And Adama is a great character. But I gotta go Picard. And maybe part of that is because I had more years of Picard. I had more exposure to Picard. There were tons more episodes of Picard. Maybe that has something to do with it, maybe. But while Battlestar Galactica is my favorite show, I'm going to lean towards Picard. All right. Daniel Manzanares writes, hey, John, you probably already talked about this, but I just found out Edward Furlong will be back as John Connor in a new Terminator. What are your thoughts? I really don't have many. I was honestly totally fine with him not coming back. Look, he's got stuff behind the camera that makes me a little bit uncomfortable with Edward Furlong, to be honest. I'm not condemning anybody. I'm just saying, makes me a little uncomfortable. And he hasn't done anything really lately, acting-wise. I was just as happy for him to not be in it. Now, whether or not he's going to have a major role or a small cameo, I don't know. If it's a small cameo just to go, look, everybody, there's John Connor, then I'm fine with that. I mean, he's not in the trailers at all, so I doubt he's a major role. It's probably a smaller role. And so, I don't know. To me, it's a questionable decision to bring him back. Again, I would have been just as fine if they didn't. I guess I'm okay if they do. But right now, what it looks like he's not gonna play a major role in this film. It's probably gonna be some kind of cameo, maybe even an elongated cameo. So right now, honestly, I have no thoughts. I'm a little bit torn on it, so I'm not really gonna lean one way or the other. I see the advantage of it. Look, you're bringing back the original Terminator, the original Sarah Connor. Why not bring back the original John? At the same time, can this kid even act anymore? There's behind the camera drama. Do you really want that to be a part of the narrative of the movie coming out? So I don't know. I'm going to stay neutral on that for now. Just say, so I'll just bottom line, mostly because I don't think it's going to be a major role. I'm just going to say, I don't care. I don't care that he is. I wouldn't have cared if he wasn't. So I'm just very, very, Swiss on this. I'm very neutral on this. That's kind of where I am right now. CoolSomeXD writes, hey, John, love the show. Listen to it almost daily. Thank you so much, CoolSomeXD. I appreciate that, man. James O'Rourke writes, I recently read a Blade versus Wolverine comic. In it, vampires are turning mutants into super vamps, possibly foreshadowing for the MCU? No. Not the Wolverine part, but just super vamps. Thoughts? Well, Blade 2 was kind of about super vamps, right? Remember in Blade 2, there was an evolved vampire that would actually feed on other regular vampires. I mean, they've already kind of done the thing of super vamps. In a way, but one thing is for certain. Nothing that happens in the comic books mean anything's going to happen in the movies. Because even when they do movies based on the name of comic books, they take huge liberties with it. So no, I honestly don't think, James, that's a foreshadowing at all. I don't think that's a foreshadowing at all, and I don't think they're going to go in that direction. They've already kind of done it already anyway in the movies with Blade, so I'm not really sure I see the point of it. But hey, this is the MCU, James, so anything is possible. Anything is possible. But no, just because something happens in the comics has zero effect on whether or not we're going to see it happen in the movies. Maybe it will, it's possible, but it won't be because of that. I don't think so. No, I don't think that's a foreshadowing of anything. I might be right, I might be wrong, but you're asking me, so no, I don't think that's a foreshadowing of anything. Emmanuel Eckhart writes, Eric Hart writes, love the boys, me too, man. This show makes me appreciate more how ahead of its time Mystery Men was. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a similarity on the take of the corrupted / famous hero. Yes, there is. Now, obviously, Mystery Men was more comedy, and, there wasn't much R-rated material in Mystery Men, but I agree. Mystery Men was so far ahead of its time. Like, I've loved Mystery Men from the first day it came out. I've just been in love with that show. I'm in love with the concept of the show. I love everything about it. I love Mystery Men. But it has always been way ahead of its time. Always been ahead of its time. And I think that's part of the reason why I would love to see Mystery Men 2 today, even though it's far too late. But hey, listen, Hank Azaria still is out there. William H. Macy still out there. Ben Stiller still out there. Gina Garofalo is still out there. I mean, all the stars of Pee Wee Herman's still out there. Do it again. Jeffrey Rush is still out there. I would love to see another one. I would totally love to see another one. And you're right, man. A little bit of thought of Mystery Men comes to mind when you think about the boys. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, here's a what could have been for you. Liam Neeson, Timothy Dalton, and Sean Connery were all considered for Mufasa before James Earl Jones. I believe I heard something like that, which is then ironic because then Liam Neeson, almost doing the voice of a lion, later on did do the voice of a lion with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chronicles of Narnia. He was the voice of Aslan. So a little bit of funny connection there. I think Timothy Dalton actually would have been a great Mufasa. James Earl Jones the best, but I think Timothy Dalton would have been a great voice of Mufasa. I really do. Back in the original animated, and if they did the one today. When you really think about the voice of Timothy Dalton, I think it would have been a great fit. But I'm totally happy that they went with James Earl Jones. Make no mistake about it. Koa1708 writes, do you or your wife like the Jollibee chain? Oh my God, my wife loves Jollibee. Loves Jollibee. If you are or know anybody that is Filipino, you've heard them talk about Jollibee. Hell, Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, he's got a fetish for Filipino girls. And even in some of his, in the lyrics of a couple of his songs, he mentions Jollibees. He does. He actually mentions Jollibee in the songs. He's got a thing for Filipino girls. Anyway, which apparently so do I. But my wife loves Jollibees, and I've had it a couple times. I like it. I like Jollibees. Actually, we've got a Jollibees, I believe, in Glendale, which is right beside Burbank here. So I've gone and eaten there. And actually once or twice on our Dungeons & Dragons nights, we always order in dinner. We've actually ordered Jollibees once or twice for dinner as well. So my wife and my wife's family and Ray love Jollibees. I certainly enjoy it too. I actually like it. Even though I don't generally like Filipino food, to be honest with you, but I do like Jollibees. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, a lot of people still question if Gamora was snapped at the end of Endgame. I don't know why anybody ever thought that. Why would anybody... I have no idea why anybody would assume that Gamora was snapped at Endgame. Like, there's just nothing that suggests that at all. Anyway, but you're right. There are a bunch of people that wonder about that, and I just don't know what the basis of wondering about that is. Anyway, the kneeling deleted scene shows her dipping out, perhaps because she didn't feel to be part of the group to do so. Yeah, you know what, too? I finally saw that deleted scene. I'm glad they took it out. Honestly, I know everybody else is saying it's so powerful. I thought it was cringe. And I hate using that word. But I did. I thought it was cringy. I really did. I'm really glad they took it out. I thought it played much better the way it played in theater. I thought that was a good edit. That was cringy to me. But yeah, I honestly don't know why anybody ever assumed. And I was actually shocked to find out how many people actually really did think Gamora got snapped. It's like, no, I mean, it made it pretty clear at the end of the movie that Star-Lord is looking at, he's searching for Gamora at the end. I thought that was pretty damn clear. And if Gamora was going to dust, they would have showed her dusting. I don't get why anybody thought she did. But, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about movies, right? We all watch it. We all look at the same piece of art. And we can all see things from different angles and different perspectives. We catch certain things that other people don't. We don't catch certain things that other people do. But I'm just saying, from my perspective, as I was watching the movie, I walked out going, wait a minute, somebody actually thought Gamora got dusted? I didn't understand. I still don't, but a lot of people do, so there must be some good reason for it. Anyway, Suthius writes, okay, with all due respect, hear me out. What if the time travel of the multiverse results in alternate what-ifs? Great Scott, it's a paradox. And that's the type, don't laugh. That's the kind of thing that made, if you read on the history of comic books and stuff like that, including, what was that, the one that I love so much, the 50-year war between Marvel and DC. If you read that, like, you understand that that's kind of what comic books were starting to get into and why they had to set the reset button a couple of times. But anyway, don't even make my head spin, man. Josh Goldberg writes, I found out that Disney Plus will be available as a Hulu add-on when it launches. I find this great, especially if you have Hulu. Yeah, but here's the thing, though. That's great that you can make it a Hulu add-on, but if it just costs the same, it's like, hey, Hulu add-on. All you got to do is pay $7 a month and you get the Disney Plus as a Hulu add-on. Well, that's great, but I can just get Disney Plus for $7. Why would I get it as a Hulu add-on when I can just get the standalone Disney Plus app? Because I've seen that with other things like Amazon. You can add Showtime as an add-on, but it costs the same as just getting Showtime. So I don't know what the function of that. I don't know what the purpose of that is. Like, if you're just paying the same amount of money, why not get the standalone app for it? Unless I'm missing something. Maybe I am. Maybe I don't know all the facts and details. Maybe there's something in there that makes it a difference. Because again, I was faced with that exact same situation. I was like, I could add on HBO to this other service I already have, or I could just get HBO. So I don't know. Do me a favor. Email me, john@thejohncampeashow.com, and tell me what I'm missing, because I got a feeling I'm just missing a piece of information here that makes it make sense to get Disney Plus as an add-on onto Hulu or Showtime onto Amazon Prime or any of these additional things instead of just getting the things themselves. So I'm clearly missing something. Do me a favor and email me and enlighten me, because I love it when I learn new things from the viewers. All right. Suthius writes, saw Captive State. Is that the one with John Goodman in it? Anyway, I honestly didn't care for the story and fast forward through most of it. My attention wasn't captive by this movie at all. Is that the movie where it's like the world has been under alien governance for like aliens came like 10 years ago and we've been under occupation for 10 years and then Chicago, people rise up and I think John Goodman's in it. I hope I'm thinking of the right movie. If so, I haven't seen it. I didn't even know it was available to watch yet. I didn't even know it was available to watch. But maybe I'm not even thinking of the right movie, but if it is the right movie I'm thinking of, it never looked interesting to me in the least. Now, that doesn't mean the movie wasn't going to be good. I'm just saying it didn't look good. It could have been great. I'm just saying it didn't look good. But if you're saying you saw it and didn't watch it, then I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it at this point. All right, thanks for sharing that, Suthius. All right, Coolsome XD writes, rest in peace, Russi Taylor, the woman who did the voice of Minnie Mouse. Passed away, I believe, at the age of 75. She might have been a little bit older than that. Which is, I mean, look, Minnie Mouse has not been a major character for a long time, clearly, in media. But, I remember when I was a kid, Minnie Mouse, the voice of Minnie Mouse. And I never really knew who she was until later in life. I just learned that as a piece of trivia, that Russi Taylor was the voice of Minnie Mouse. But, yeah, it's a historic day. The voice of Minnie Mouse passed away. And All thoughts and condolences to anybody who is close to her, knew her, part of her friends or family circle. It's a really sad thing. All right, James L.H. writes, 2019 is good year for James McAvoy. Started with Glass, one of my favorite performances of this year. X-Men, he was good. His Dark Materials, and It 2 upcoming. You know what? I haven't even thought about it like that, but you're right. It's turning out to be a James McAvoy kind of year. Now, I agree. He was good in X-Men, even if X-Men wasn't all that good of a film. But let's see if his Dark Materials and It Chapter 2 are any good. Because remember, they've tried doing his Dark Materials stuff before. Just because It Chapter 1 was great doesn't mean the sequel is going to be great, although I'm super excited for it. So but listen, if his Dark Materials is good, and if It Chapter 2 is good, and I didn't like Glass. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like Glass. But oh my God, if the Academy Awards are being held tomorrow, I say James McAvoy deserves the Best Actor nomination. What he did in that movie is crazy. Even if I didn't like the movie overall, what James McAvoy does in that movie is nuts. And again, I don't know what'll happen by the end of the year, but if the Academy Awards were held today, he's got to get a nomination for Best Actor. But we'll see how it goes. But if his Dark Materials ends up being good and he's good in it, and if It Chapter 2 ends up being good and he's good in it, you got a real strong case there, James, for 2019 being the year of James McAvoy. Anyway, ZOMG Ruler writes, over under 30% we get a new Justice League movie by 2025. Whew. 30%'s low. Okay, I'll say this. I don't think we're going to get a Justice League movie by 2025, but I'll go over 30%. I'll go over 30%. I wouldn't go over 50%. I still think it's an under 50% chance we get that, but you're going to set the line at 30. Got to go that. And then you go over under 20% by 2030. Well, actually, ZMG Ruler, the further you go, the higher your number should go. So you should say over under 50% by 2030. But at any rate, I'll take the over on 20%. So I'll take over on both of them. Even though I don't think we're going to get one by 2025, 30% is a low number, so I'll take that action. All right, Timothy Brown writes, every episode of Swamp Thing I watch makes me mad that they canceled this show already. Know people who have canceled their subscriptions. Yeah, I just, how much of a mess do you need? Look, you're just starting this subscription service. And your third show out, you cancel after the first episode? What? What? First of all, you launch your service with one show. They should have launched it with Titans and Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing. They should have had 3 shows ready to go, 3 originals ready to go. So I'm not really not really sure what they're thinking about that. It reminds me a lot of the Lionsgate show that I ran for them. Remember, Lionsgate had this thing a couple years ago called Comic-Con HQ. So they, in partnership with Comic-Con, started this new subscription service. And they asked me to create and run a show for it. And it was called Film HQ. And I remember, and I questioned them on all the time, because they had a number of really interesting shows. Including one with Trisha Hirschberger, which I actually thought was kind of promising. Anyway, they had a number of really interesting little shows. Mine was one of the little shows that they were starting with. I think they started with like 8 or 9 little shows. But they had 3 big things coming. 3 big shows coming. One was Con Man, the Alan Tudyk show that Nathan Fillion was going to be a part of. That had its first season somewhere else, but they were bringing it over to Comic-Con HQ, and it was going to be a Comic-Con HQ original. So there was that. There was Con Man. Then there were, I think, Kings of Con, which starred 2 of the character actors from Supernatural. It was a great idea for a show. It's the guy who played God and the guy who played one of the archangels. And they were playing themselves. That's what they do all year. These 2 guys who are occasional character players in Supernatural, their whole career is now based on just going around to Supernatural conventions through the year and following them around as they go to Supernatural conventions. It's It's fake documentary style. And it looked amazing. It looked amazing. And then the third show they had was Mark Hamill was doing a collectibles show. Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, was doing a collectibles show. But Lionsgate decided to launch the network with none of their big three shows. They launched the network with their small shows, which I thought that was a mistake. And I remember having conversations with the leadership and saying, I think this is a mistake. You got to come out strong. Maybe you don't have to lead with all three of the big shows at once, but you're going to launch with all these smaller shows. You got to have one of the big ones to back it up. Because if you expect to get a big slew of subscribers just based on the supporting programming, because look, as important as I like to think I am, let's face it, my show on a Lionsgate channel, Comic-Con HQ, was a small supporting piece of programming. It wasn't meant to be one of the big guns. It was one of the supporting pieces of programming. And I was fine with that. I'm not Mark Hamill. I'm not the guys from Supernatural. I'm not Alan Tudyk. I was fine with that. My show is one of the smaller supporting pieces of programming. But what I would say to them is, guys, if you expect to get a slew of new subscribers, a slew of subscribers to start this thing off based on us smaller supporting programs, I don't think that's the right way to go. But they thought it was the right way to go. And there were some smart people that I really liked. Some smart people I really liked. And what happened was, sure enough, Comic-Con HQ launches. My show, Film HQ, launches. And I love that show. I love doing that show. Yet another one of the shows that I did with John Schnepp. And sure enough, the network wasn't off to the start that they wanted. And I'm like, well, what did you expect? And after just a month or two, after a couple of months, they started canceling shows. And by the end of it, out of the 9 shows, 8, 9, 10 shows that they launched with, they were all canceled except for Film HQ. Film HQ, my show, was the only show that was left standing. And they had a couple other smaller things. We were the #1 rated original program on the network. And they started looking to us to get the subscriber base up. To which I would then say to them, guys, we had this conversation months ago. You've got all your big guns still in your back pocket. You know, Kings of Con Man, Mark Hamill show. Like, you can't launch without your big shows and expect us supporting programming to be the things that drives the subscribers to come in. Anyway, it was just it was a really interesting idea, and I really admire the vision that the guys at Lionsgate particularly had for Comic-Con HQ. It was a great idea, and not all great ideas work out, right? You can have the best idea in the world and it may not work. Doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea, it just didn't work. And I think Comic-Con HQ was that. I think it was a great idea that just didn't work. And to bring this back around full circle, I've never understood to this day, I mean, the DC streaming service is in such, it's from an outsider's point of view looking in, it looks like a mess. You only launched it with one of your original programs. By the time your third original program comes around, it gets canceled after one episode. It's like, it just looks like a disaster. It looks like a disaster. And I subscribe to the DC streaming service. I have it because I want to watch Doom Patrol because it's awesome. Titans, not so much. And I've never gotten around to watching Swamp Thing because I thought with all the drama and it getting canceled after one episode, I just never bothered to jump on board with it or try it. It's a mess, man. It's absolutely a mess. Timothy Brown writes, P.S. I don't care for Blade Runner either, just okay. You and I are some of the only people on the planet that aren't all that thrilled with the original Blade Runner. I do acknowledge it's one of the all-time classics, one of the most influential sci-fi films of all time. Just never worked for me. I do like Blade Runner 2049 very much. I didn't like the original that much. Murray Reich writes, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood better than Hateful Eight? I would say yes. Yes. I think it's better. Look, I don't think it's in Quentin Tarantino's top 5, But it's better than some other Tarantino. I think it's better than Death Proof. I think it's better than Hateful Eight. I might even like it more than Jackie Brown. I quite like Jackie Brown. I think it might even be better than that. But yeah, it's definitely in the, for me, not in the top 5. But I still quite enjoy it. Coolsome XD writes, favorite video game character, mine's Sora from Kingdom Hearts. I never did play Kingdom Hearts. Probably Starkiller. Probably Starkiller, or from the Star Wars game that Sam does, Sam Witwer, or perhaps one of several World of Warcraft characters. One of several World of Warcraft characters. I have to say it'd be one of them. Senpaigar writes, in the bookstore the other day, saw the complete Star Wars encyclopedia, 3 huge books with everything from movies, games, etc. $125, wanted so bad. You know what? I got a Barnes & Noble about a 15-minute walk up the street from where I live. Just hearing that makes me think I should go, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me open Amazon. And let me look for Star Wars Encyclopedia. See if I can find it here. Well, there's different things. Oh, here we go. The complete Star Wars Encyclopedia. Hey, good news, my friend. You can get it on Amazon for $85. $85. Let me see if I can get the, if this is the one you saw, if that's the one you saw, it's on Amazon for $85. All 3 hardcover. It's called The Complete Star Wars Encyclopedia. I may just have to get that for myself. I might. Hold on a second. Let me bookmark this page. I might have to go order this thing. Thanks for putting that on my radar, Senpaigar. All right. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, John. Thanos might have a contingency plan. When he went into the future to fight the Avengers, the other didn't go. The other what? He's still alive since Ronan hasn't had his audience with Thanos. Thoughts? Thanos might have a contingency plan. When he went into the future to fight the Avengers, the other didn't go. But there was only one Thanos at that time. I don't know that I follow... sorry, I don't know that I follow your logic there, Alex. I don't know that I follow you. Sorry about that. It's probably would need a lot more explanation for me to understand what it is you're kind of seeing in your head. Robert Perez writes, I know your friend was bummed about not going to Galaxy's Edge. Oh, you're talking about Christian. But I would love to see his reaction if they put Harloff Minor in a show or a movie. Oh, he would have the same reaction that he had that they put him in a book. He would geek out. By the way, I don't know if you heard me say this before. You guys know I just did my annual panel at Comic-Con. And my panel was, after Endgame, where does the comic book genre go from here? It's my Masters of the Web panel. And I had Christian on it this year. And the best line of the panel was clearly Christian. Because a question about Star Wars came up. And Christian goes, well, as you know, I've been busting my ass being a Star Wars fan for the last 5 years. Which, of course, was one of the things that he said during his angry tirade about Star Wars Galaxies. I've been busting my ass as a Star Wars fan for 5 years. Which he regretted the moment he said it, by the way. So we're at the panel, and Star Wars comes up. And Harloff, it caught me so off guard, I thought I was going to choke. Because I think I was sipping on some water when he said it, and I thought I was going to choke. But he goes, well, as you well know, I've been busting my ass as a Star Wars fan for the last 5 years. And I thought I was going to die. And it was just, it wasn't just me. We had, Chris was at the end there, me, Kyle, Rob. And I thought we were all just going to die. It was the funniest line of thing. But yeah, I'm sure he would be tickled. If they did that. Anyway, Otto000 writes, Peyton Reed may direct Fantastic Four. Please no. Also, if there is an Ant-Man 3, they should replace him. I don't want mediocre Fantastic Four like Ant-Man movies. Oh, well, hey, listen, man, Otto, all film is subjective, and if you watch those Ant-Man movies and that's how they struck you, totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. That's the movie business, man. We all see movies, and they all hit us a different way. I wholeheartedly disagree with you, though. I think what look, I don't think Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp was the greatest movie in the world, but I thought it was really damn good. The first Ant-Man was, I thought, spectacular. I don't know how you do a movie about Ant-Man any more entertaining than what Peyton Reed did with it. I thought he was just fantastic. And I'll tell you what, with those sensibilities to possibly a Fantastic Four movie, which, by the way, nobody has said officially that Peyton Reed's directing a Fantastic Four movie. Let's just be clear about that. But, I mean, hey, if the rumors do turn out and say they announced Peyton Reed directing Fantastic Four, I'm all for it. Because I think he took a very, very difficult character to make fun and relatable to a movie audience, something as ridiculous as Ant-Man, and he made something magic out of it. I thought the job he did was just spectacular. So totally respect that it didn't work for you the same way that it worked for me. That's being a film fan, man. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to ask me, I appreciate you giving me a platform to say Peyton Reed is awesome. He did an awesome job with those films. They're not the best movies in the MCU. You know, it's not Civil War or anything like that, but I thought he did a fantastic job with them. And I think if they did get him to do Fantastic Four, we could do much worse. I think we could do much worse, my friend. But again, you didn't like him as much as me? No problem. And by the way, don't worry about it, because right now there's nothing official that says he's doing it anyway. So you might get your wish. You might get your wish, my friend. All right, Robert Perez writes, where are we at here? John, if I ever get the honor of meeting you in person, I'd like to treat you to breakfast so we could talk about stars and catch up on my eggs. Yeah, at that point, as grateful as I would be for you treating me to breakfast, I'd probably just get up and kindly walk out, because I wouldn't want to, dry heave over everything. Tony Hurd writes, 4 of the 5 top movies worldwide are Disney, and the fifth is in association with Disney. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we're running out of ways to illustrate or talk about, Tony, all the different ways that Disney is just completely dominant right now. Now, it's not hurting any of the other studios. It's just that Disney is performing so much better than everybody else. It's just nuts, and that's yet just another good illustration about just how dominant they are right now. Senpaigar writes, evil will always triumph because good is dumb. My number one. It is my number one all-time funniest moment in the history of movies. Spaceballs, as Dark Helmet says to Lone Star, now, Lone Star, you will see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb. I have never laughed harder. I'm not saying Spaceballs is the funniest movie of all time, but as far as the single funniest moment of all time in movies, I've never laughed harder at a single moment than that moment in Spaceballs, one of the greats. All right, Tony Hurd writes, I stayed up to 3 a.m. watching The Boys, great show, and I did practically the same thing. I stayed up till 2 a.m. watching it. I started watching it the other day, I think it was Thursday. I started watching it Thursday after I was done the John Campea Show. Put it on, and I took small breaks to eat a meal, use the bathroom, talk to Anne about her day after she got home from work. But other than that, it was all the way through to 2 a.m. and I watched the entire first season. I just couldn't stop watching it. Senpaigar writes, I still enjoy the Jimmy Fallon episode 3 spoof. Padme, Obi-Wan said you killed younglings. Again, I killed at younglings. Younglings Asian Comedy Club. I don't think I'm familiar with that. I don't think I ever saw that. Okay, let me make a note of that. Hold on a second. Fallon, episode 3 spoof. Okay, I made a note of that. I will go and check. I don't recall that. It doesn't sound familiar to me. I'm going to have to go and check that out at some point. So thanks for putting that on my radar. Pool of Dead writes, which is better, Godfather 1 or Godfather 2? It's so funny. Say what you want about the MCU. The Godfather 1 and 2. The debate is which one is, amongst a lot of film fans, amongst a lot of cinephiles, the big debate in movies is which is the greatest movie of all time? Is it Godfather 1 or Godfather 2? To a lot of cinephiles, a Godfather movie is the best movie of all time. The only question is it Godfather 1 or is it Godfather 2? It is the only back-to-back films that won Best Picture, both of them at the Academy Awards. They both won Best Picture. Godfather 1 won Best Picture, Godfather 2, and again, amongst a lot of circles in film fandom, the only debate about best movie of all time is it Godfather 1 or Godfather 2? I'd be honest with you, Poole, I go back and forth. Like, I'll watch Godfather 2 and I'll go, wow, that may be the greatest film of all time. Of course, to me, it's Star Wars, but I could see an argument for, I'm like, oh my God, Godfather 2, people don't know how to tell stories like that anymore. I mean, what Coppola did, it's crazy. But then, a few months later, I'll be watching the original Godfather and I'll go, no, this is the best of the series. And then I'll see 2 and I'll go back and forth. I lean towards 1. But if you ask me next week, I might lean towards 2. But yeah, it is. If you really want to think about how staggering of an achievement things are, like we're talking about the MCU and what they're doing with the box office, blah, blah, Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. And I know there's a bunch of you guys that haven't seen either of them. And you really need to. You need to watch the Godfather films. Some of the most iconic music in movie history, too. T-Ness sends in a really big super chat. Thank you, T-Ness, for supporting the channel on that level. And T-Ness writes, I have to be honest, I'm suffering from a comic book fatigue because neither the MCU, DCU, or DCCW are doing anything that interests me anymore. But don't get me wrong, I'm not Comic Book Girl 19. I don't want these movies to fail. Then he follows up and writes, just going to try to be more selective in comic book movies to keep appreciating the golden age of comic book movies, Excelsior. Yeah, I mean, and therein, T-Ness, lies the heart of what we were talking about at Comic-Con. Because what we were talking about at Comic-Con was, after Endgame, where do we go from here? Like, Endgame isn't the greatest comic book movie of all time or anything like that, but it was the fulfillment of the promise of what comic book movies to be. Huge crossovers, all the characters, all these big things happening, blah. Endgame kind of was in many ways the climax of what comic book movies can be. And the question that we talked about at Comic-Con was, well, now what? Like, once you've done that movie in comic book movies, where do you go from there? Like, what do you do after that? And that's going to be part of the conundrum. And I think, T-Ness, that you're not alone. I think for the first time ever, I'm using a bit of hyperbole. It's not literally first time ever, but to any significant scale, I think what we're seeing right now is the first time that there are people who are comic book movie fans that after Endgame it's been like, okay, now am I really all that interested in another comic book movie or as interested? Now, it becomes incumbent upon the movie industry and the comic book movie producers to continue to make new, fresh, different, exciting, high-quality movies to keep us on board. But T-Ness, you are not alone. I've talked to other people who are kind of like, yeah, now I kind of feel like I'm not super excited about the next comic book movie now because Endgame has happened. I mean, what do you do after that? Again, it's not the best comic book movies. There are a bunch of comic book movies that are better than Endgame. Civil War, Logan, Dark Knight, and a bunch of them. The original Avengers. I think Infinity War was better than Endgame. Endgame's great. Don't get me wrong. Endgame is great, but it is kind of the climax. I mean, what do you do after that? And I think that's left a lot of people, T-Ness, apparently you as well, feeling a little bit of the hangover. Not just the hangover of Endgame, but the hangover of the Infinity Saga. The hangover of 22 films that has now crescendoed and hit its climax. And I think it's normal and I think it's understandable that a number of our fellow fans are feeling a little bit of a fatigue, maybe at this point, maybe a little bit of a hangover. And there's only one thing that's going to change that. A series of great comic book movies. And I think we're off to a good start with Spider-Man Far From Home. What's the next big comic book movie coming out? What's the next big one? Is Black Widow the next big one? I can't remember what the next one technically coming up is, but not just MCU, but any of them. Because, Black Widow comes out before Wonder Woman. So anyway, I think a sustained string of MCU, DCU, whatever, really great comic book movies again will go like, okay, no, we're still on track. We hit that crescendo, but everything's still great and good. And I think that will bring it along. Again, I don't think the majority of people feel the way you do, T-Ness. I just don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone. And it's understandable. So let's see these guys who make comic book movies, be they Kevin Feige's or Walter Hamada's or whoever, let's see if these guys who make these comic book films are now able to give us sustained excellence. And I think that will be our hangover cure. But they can't just do things that they've always done. It can't be like, oh, another superhero origin. Ooh, here's his big foil. Ooh, the universe is at stake. They got to change things up. And we see them trying to change things up, right? DC is trying to do things a little bit differently by doing more solo standalone films that aren't as dependent upon interconnected shared universe. We're seeing Marvel trying more female-led films. They're trying an Asian-led film with Shang-Chi. They're trying different things. Because what you cannot do after something like Endgame is just keep following the formula. After something like Endgame, you can't just keep following the formula. You got to start doing new things, bring in new audiences and stuff like that. So we'll see, T-Ness, if they can stave off that hangover and that fatigue that a bunch of people are starting to feel. I'm not feeling that yet myself, but I know people like you are, T-Ness, and we'll see what these guys at DC and Marvel can do to fight that off. Keep things fresh, keep things new, keep things interesting, and not just follow the old formula. We'll see what happens. All right, excellent observation, T-Ness. Thanks for sharing, man. All right, just two more, and then I'm going to take my 5-minute break, everybody. And then we'll be right back right after the 5-minute break. All right, Senpai Guy writes, ever see the concept Green Goblin mask for first Spider-Man? You know what? I can't think of it, but it's scratching in my head somewhere that I did see it at some point. I probably did, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Terry Giordano writes, just saw the Amazon, oh, me too, brother. Just saw the Amazon Lord of the Rings teaser trailer. Wow. Heard they paid $250 million just for the rights. Also, biggest budget per episode ever. The teaser shows the talent that is working on the show again. Wow, I'm in. Guys, if you don't know what Terry's talking about, Amazon has launched, you can find it on YouTube, and it's just called Our Fellowship. And it's just a little 1.5-minute video that are highlighting all the big behind-the-scenes players, from the showrunners, the producers, the executive producers, the concept artists, the writer's room, all that kind of stuff, and all the Academy Award-winning things and all the stuff they have worked on. They have assembled an all-star team. They really have assembled an all-star team. And it's just a little 1.5-minute video. Again, search Lord of the Rings, Our Fellowship, Amazon. If you just search that on YouTube, it should be like one of the first videos that pops up. And I'm in full agreement with you, Terry. I watched that and my jaw was just like, oh, this looks amazing. Oh my God, this looks amazing. Just talking about the people behind the scenes, particularly that they got the main artist from the Lord of the Rings trilogy to come back and do all the concept art. I'm like, oh my God. I'm freaking out watching this little behind the scenes thing of just these writers and producers and whatever. And there's really not much to it other than that. But oh my God, it lifted my spirits, man. It made, I'm excited for a Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, sure. But now seeing the people, the talent they've got involved, it's like, oh my God, now I'm hyped. I am so hyped. And I'm totally with you, man. That it looked awesome. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. All right, guys, listen. I'm going to take a little 5-minute break here, 5-ish minutes while I go use the bathroom. I'm going to refill my drink, give my vocal cords just a little bit of rest, and then we will be right back and pick up with Mike Hill, and then Shane Cutshaw will pick that up again just in 5 minutes. I'll be back here in just a minute, guys. Be right back. All right, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your understanding, giving me a few minutes there to rest up, but we're back, and it's time to jump right back into him. Let's keep going here. All right, the next question today comes to us from, oh, that was Terry before. Okay, the next one comes to us from Mike Hill, who writes, Hey, John, I sent you the Avengers kneeling for Tony deleted scene on Twitter. I know you get a lot of messages, so I hope you see it. I thought it was powerful. Well, I did go and watch it very quickly after I seen it, so I have seen it. Again, I'm going to be in the minority here. I thought it was good that they cut that out. That didn't work for me. That didn't fit. I mean, it felt really forced. And I think, and although I hate using this word because I don't like it when other people use it, but it was cringy. I thought it was cringy. So I fully support the Russo brothers' decision to cut that out. I think they made the right choice. Again, I get it. There's something symbolic. It was really sweet, but it really didn't make any sense, and it would have felt very forced in there. And there are some things in Endgame that feel kind of forced in there. So I think they made the right choice. I think the Russos in their wisdom made the right, appropriate choice in taking that scene out. That's how I felt about it, at any rate. All right, Shane Cutshaw writes, Hey, John, if Ford v. Ferrari is successful, could we get a Henry Ford biopic similar to Tucker, The Man and His Dream? I can't believe we don't have a Henry Ford biopic yet. Why? Well, I mean, honestly, the likelihood of a Henry Ford biopic will have nothing to do with Ford v. Ferrari. The success or failure of Ford v. Ferrari, I don't believe will impact the likelihood or lack of likelihood that we get a Henry Ford biopic. Why? Same thing. Maybe they just don't feel like it would make any money. Maybe they don't think people would go to watch it. Maybe they don't think there's an interesting enough story there to tell. Or they haven't figured out a way to tell it in a compelling way that would work for a movie, that would get people out to go see it. I mean, there could be a million different reasons, honestly. But to the core part of your question, Shane, if Ford v. Ferrari is successful, will that affect the Henry Ford the possibility of a Henry Ford biopic? I don't think so. I don't think it will. I don't think if it's a big success, I don't think that'll increase the chances of a Ford biopic. If it's a big flop, I don't think that'll hurt the chances of a Ford biopic. They're two totally different things. And even though there's a character who is involved with them, I really don't think it'll affect it that much. I could be wrong, but I really don't think there is. So again, though, if you're looking forward and you want a Henry Ford biopic, if this movie is a flop, if Ford v. Ferrari is a flop, don't let that discourage you, because I don't think if it flops, it'll hurt the chances of a Ford biopic either. So keep that in mind. Anyway, that's just kind of my thing. But by the way, I am very excited for this Ford v. Ferrari movie. I've been stoked about this ever since CinemaCon in April when they showed us the first bit of footage from it. I think this is going to be great. I mean, maybe it'll be awful, but it looks great. And I can't wait to see it, Shane. I cannot wait to see it. All right, Sid Vicious writes, Green Book made a lot of money during award season, December through March, then its initial release in November. This could be blueprint for original movies to be hits. Well, no, this is why movies that are possible Oscar contenders release around that time of the year, because they're counting on Oscar buzz equaling more box office. They're counting on that. That's why they do this. It's not just any original movies to do that. No, they've got to be Oscar contenders. They got to be movies that are so good that they're going to generate Oscar buzz. And therefore, a movie like Green Book, while not being a huge blockbuster hit, Green Book made a hell of a lot more money than it would have had it not been released, had it not been an Oscar kind of movie. All right? Had it not been an Oscar kind of movie. So let's just go. Let me take a look here at Green Book. So Green Book actually made a hell of a lot of money. Made $320 million. Would Green Book have made $320 million had it not been an Oscar film? Had it not been good enough to get all that Oscar buzz and have all that Oscar buzz propel it? No. So see, that's why for a lot of years, that's why, like, people think, oh, only movies that release late in the year are eligible for Oscars. No. You can release a film in January, it's eligible for the Oscars. It's just that studios, if they think their movie has Oscar chances, they want to release it close to Oscar season. so that the Oscar buzz will generate into more money at the box office. It's a tried and true formula. It doesn't mean your movie's going to become a big hit, but it does mean your movie's going to make more money than it would have, and that's why they do that. And Green Book is just a great example of that. All right, Shane Cutshaw writes, where are we at? There he is. Hi again. I would love to see Blinded by the Light, as Springsteen is my all-time favorite. I can't find a U.S. release date for it. Oh, that's simple, Shane. Just go to Blinded by the Light's IMDb page and it'll give you the release date right there. I believe it's like August 16th or something like that, but just just search for Blinded by the Light, IMDb, go to its IMDb page, and right near the top it'll tell you when it's releasing. So that's the easiest thing, but I believe it's mid-August. It's mid-August that it's getting its release. I'm looking forward to it too. Jared Graff writes, hey John, there are no fake deaths in the MCU. Didn't anyone tell you they were only... Oh, there's a little Miracle Max in there. Mostly dead. That's a nice little Princess Bride reference in there for Miracle Max. One of the great scenes, except he's not dead. He's only mostly dead. You know what? People in general don't talk enough about the Princess Bride. Let me just say that. So that's it. That's what I should do. I should create like a looping GIF that whenever I bring up the MCU's fake deaths, just play that Miracle Max by Billy Crystal. They're only mostly dead. Now, I should play that. That's a very good observation, Jared. Nice quote. I always love it when people can quote, bring up a good line from Princess Bride. All right. Alex Von Gollum writes, do you feel that Palpatine, playing a role in Episode 9 will undermine Kylo's arc of solidifying his role as Supreme Leader? I like him returning, but it feels iffy. Oh, the answer to that question, Alex, is yes, and that's good. That's part of the drama. Look, any character in a movie, this is one of the reasons I didn't like Brightburn, okay? And you guys know how excited I was for Brightburn. But I think the biggest failing of Brightburn was there was absolutely nothing standing, no hurdle, no obstacle, nothing standing between our main character, whether it's a hero or a villain, and what they ultimately go to. Movies aren't about a characters doing things. It's about characters who need to overcome individuals, circumstances, whatever, the obstacles that they have to face, the mountains they have to climb to get to where they want to go by the end of the film. In Brightburn, there was literally no obstacle for the kid. There was at no point in the movie was there anything that would have potentially derailed this kid's evolution from here to here. Nothing in the movie did that. There was nothing in the movie that posed any sort of an obstacle to him. With Kylo Ren, the notion that, okay, by the end of the last movie, it looked like he is solidifying his hold on the First Order. He's now in charge of the ultimate power in the universe, the First Order. But is there a little bit of a wrinkle in his plan in the person of a Sheev Palpatine, Lord of the Sith? Could that be the thing that's in his way? And to me, that doesn't undermine the arc. What that does is it gives texture to the arc. It gives yet another thing that stands in the way of both the heroes and the villains by introducing Palpatine. I think the introduction of Palpatine does a lot of really interesting things. Narratively, it gives us a lot of very, very interesting things. Now, undoubtedly, someone's going to say to me, but John, you don't like fake deaths. Bringing Palpatine back. No. I don't mind a good fake death. Where I get frustrated is when you do it over and 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 over again. Palpatine died 30 years ago. That's one fake death. 30 years. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with James Bond doing a fake death once in a while. I'm okay with the Bourne Ultimatum doing a fake death. I'm okay with the DCEU doing a fake death. I'm okay with that. It can be a good narrative hook. A fake death can be a good narrative hook. Where I get frustrated is when it's done over and over and over and over and over again, to the point now when anybody dies in the MCU, I just assume they're coming back. In Star Wars, when somebody dies, I don't assume they're coming back. In James Bond, when somebody dies, I don't assume they're coming back. But in the MCU now, come on, admit it. When anybody dies in the MCU now, you just assume they're coming back. Of course you do, because that's what they do. I mean, Loki's come back from the dead 3 times. 3 times. Not that I'm unhappy that he's coming back, because I love Loki, and I cannot wait for that series, but still. So no, I think this is a good thing for Star Wars. Let's see what, it might end up being an unmitigated disaster. Who knows? But I love what JJ did in The Force Awakens. Let's see what they do here. All right. Adrian Musio writes, you recommended The Expanse. I'm only a few episodes in, but I feel this is a show I could really get into. Thank you. And you know what? I have not watched the trailer for, what is it, season 3 now? Is it season 3 or season 4 they're going into? Hold on a second. Let me just look here. The Expanse season 4 trailer. Because was there a trailer for season 4? There is a trailer for season 4. Okay, they're going into the 4th season. I have not watched the trailer yet, but I am all caught up on The Expanse. The Expanse is another show that you guys got me turned on to, much like Doom Patrol. I really wasn't interested in The Expanse, but you guys kept telling me over and over again, check it out. I love this show. So now I'm recommending it. Now you picked up on it, Adrian, and I'm glad you're enjoying it, man, because I'm loving it. And now you still got time, man. You still got time, Adrian, to get caught up on all 3 seasons before season 4 starts. And now it's on Amazon. It's now an Amazon Prime show, and I'm excited. I can't wait for the show to come back. All right. Julius Goodwin writes, new inscription for Mjolnir. Whosoever wields this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Bobby. Okay, I was joking around the other day. It's like Thor, like if you take away Thor's power, he's still Thor. Like, this is part of the reason why I don't like what they're doing with Natalie Portman, making her the new Thor. It's like, you can't be the new Thor. Thor is Thor. That's him. He's Thor. In the first Thor movie, when he loses his powers, he didn't stop being known as Thor. He didn't suddenly become known as Bobby. He's still Thor. Anyway, so maybe that should be Julius inscribed on Mjolnir, the new enchantment of the All-Father Odin. Double Crit writes, thoughts on the reveal that Birds of Prey Black Mask is gay and trying to recover a stolen photo of his penis. Well, first of all, Double Crit, number 1, that's not been revealed. That's rumored, but nobody's come out and confirmed that. Nobody's come out and confirmed that. So just keep that in mind. It has not been revealed. There are rumors suggesting that, and maybe it's the case. But we don't know. So, like, you're making a couple of assumptions. Number 1, nobody said it was a stolen photo of his penis. They said it's stolen photo of something sensitive to him. People then made assumptions as to what that means and went on. So you see what you're doing here, Double Crit? You're playing a little bit, inadvertently, you're playing broken telephone. You're playing other people's game of broken telephone. So let's just be clear on that. The one consistent rumor is that they're going to make Black Mask a gay character. I'm all for it. Why not? And it feels like there are people who are mad at it because they don't think a gay character should be evil. Of course you should have evil gay characters. There are good characters, there are bad characters. There are good straight characters, there are evil straight characters. There are good gay characters, there should be evil gay characters. So yes, and then there are people who just don't want to acknowledge that there are gay people in the world and don't want gay people in movies, period. So, whatever. I disagree with both of them. You can show the gay character as being a compelling, evil villain antagonist in a film. Absolutely you can. And you should. So I'm totally all for it. Again, the whole point is he's trying to get back a picture of his penis. Hey, who knows? Maybe that's true. But as of right now, that's only the result of a broken telephone thing. There was a rumor that he was trying to get back a photo of something sensitive that evolved into his penis. Somebody then went on and speculated it's his penis. Nothing has been confirmed by anybody, though. Just keep that in mind. So I'm not going to, other than the fact that if Black Mask being played by Ewan McGregor is a gay character, I'm cool with him, A, being a gay character, and B, being an evil gay character. I'm good with that across the board. As far as everything else, it's just blind speculation and rumors at this point that might be true, likely not true, so it's hard for me to have an opinion about it one way or the other, though. Slim Trav writes, Pitbull as new Professor X, let's go Feige. Oh, like the musician Pitbull? Yeah, he just sings. He sings out all of his orders to the X-Men. That would be interesting. Incomplete Control writes, Might Ray be the chosen one, and Luke, Emperor Yoda? I have no idea what you mean by that. Is Rey the chosen one? No, Rey's not the chosen one. Luke was the chosen one. Sorry, Anakin was the chosen one. He fulfilled the prophecy. He, at the time, brought balance back to the Force. Now, that doesn't mean that more things can't happen a decade later. Like in real life, a war ends. Yay! And that's great. Now, years later, another war may begin, but that doesn't take away from the accomplishment of ending that previous war, right? I'm talking about in real life. Like some people are saying, oh, if Palpatine's back, that totally undoes everything Anakin did in the original movie. No, it doesn't. Anakin fulfilled the prophecy. He brought an end to the Empire. He brought balance back to the universe and restored peace in the universe. That doesn't mean it was going to last forever. But what you mean by Rey be the chosen one and Luke, Emperor Yoda? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but that's what I think about the Rey thing. Nikhil Shirsat writes, when wrongfully called out, just ignore it. I'm not even going to that. Steve Gray writes, what are your 3 favorite movie soundtracks? Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and maybe Jurassic Park. Maybe Jurassic Park. I mean, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings for sure. That third position is kind of up for grabs. Maybe a Jurassic Park, maybe Indiana Jones, maybe, although it's more for the One Piece, but the original Christopher Reeve Superman. Yeah, the 2 spots are solid. The third one is up for grabs. Jared McBride writes, I'm getting excited for Avengers Endgame coming to digital on Tuesday. I'm so excited. I also have it on pre-order on Blu-ray. Dude, I'm telling you what, I'm buying that the moment it comes out and I'm watching it again. I saw it 4 times in theaters by the end of its opening weekend. I was at the premiere. I then went to a early press screening, and then I saw it twice in theater on opening weekend. And I always thought I'd go back to see it again, but I thought, you know what? It's a 3-hour movie. I've seen it 4 times. I'm good. I'll wait till it comes out on home video. Well, now that time is here. It is now time for the home video release. And yeah, I cannot wait to watch it. And I'm really excited. Here's what I'm going to do. When it comes out, I'm going to watch it twice. I'm going to watch it once through, and then I'm going to watch it through again with director's commentary. Because I love the director's commentary very, very much. So, you and me both, Jared. You and me both. I'm really psyched for it. Jake Air writes, what are your thoughts on the Cats trailer? Do you think it's as bad as everyone is making it out to be? I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. I agree on one thing with a lot of people, and I disagree with a lot of people. Here's where I disagree. There are some people out there saying that the visual effects didn't look good. I completely disagree. I think the visual effects looked stupid advanced. Like way beyond what we've seen done that way. It's way beyond almost anything we've ever seen before. I think the visual effects are incredible. That said, where I agree with a lot of people is I don't think the trailer was very good. Look, I always say this. The job of a trailer is to take your excitement level however high or however low it is for a movie and bump it up a couple of notches, right? That's the job of a trailer. Take your existing excitement level for a movie, even if it's really low or even if it's really high, and kick it up a couple of notches. That Cats trailer did nothing for me. Other than, wow, look at those visual effects, that trailer did nothing for me. If anything, it actually lowered my expectations and excitement. And that's not good. So, yeah, now that doesn't mean the movie won't be brilliant. Maybe the movie will be awesome. But if you're just asking me about the trailer, they better do a better job with their second trailer, because that trailer did nothing for me. Nothing for me. That's just me, though. Levi Pegler writes, As a young filmmaker, I'm worried about how much technology may take over the process by the time I'll have honed my skills in the future. Your thoughts? No, look, technology is nothing but tools. Technology is nothing but tools. Tools in the hands of the filmmaker. The filmmaker is the one that tells the stories. Yes, the tools may change. The tools may evolve that are at your disposal to tell those stories, but at the end of the day, films and movies are about the storytellers. The storytellers telling their stories. Look, it's funny listening to Steven Spielberg and George Lucas talking about how, hey man, when they had to edit movies, they had to do them on these big tabletop machines, literally cutting film and splicing film together and blah, blah, blah. Today, totally different. You learn filmmaking on Premiere or Avid, probably Premiere, maybe Final Cut, maybe DaVinci Resolve or something like that. But that to them is a major change. But to you, it's just what you grew up with. The technology of making film, be it the cameras that we use, be it the things we use to edit, the things we use to do effects, the things we use to, it's just tools. It's just tools. It still comes down to the people telling the stories, regardless of how the tools evolve. So anyway, and whatever you're honing your skills for, it'll come to pay off with new tools that come out as well. Because look, people who are really good at editing film, they were able to adapt to Avid and Final Cut and Premiere and all that kind of stuff a lot easier because they already knew the fundamentals of what it was to edit film. So, but it just comes down to being a storyteller, man, and that's the most important thing, so I wouldn't worry about it, Levi. Macaulay Denning writes, hey, John, no mention of Aunt May's future in the MCU. Aunt May is a small supporting character. Why would they need to make an announcement about the future of a small supporting character? So you're right, there's been no mention, but there should be no mention. She is a small supporting character in one of the movies. I don't see why you'd come out and make announcements about that character's future. Any more than in Ant-Man. You know how he's got Luis, but also those two other guys, right? I think T.I. is one of them, and I can't remember the name of the Russian dude. I think he's Russian. Like, they made no announcements about their future, but nor should they. Those aren't the important characters. Aunt May is great, but she is a small supporting character, so there should be no mention of her at this point. That's just the way I see it at any rate, Macaulay. Jay writes, Kevin Smith said the last shot of The Rise of Skywalker will melt your face. What kind of scene would melt your face? Speculations abound. Well, you also got to keep in mind who said it. I love Kevin Smith, right? But this isn't like, I don't know, Christopher Nolan was on set and said, the last shot of Star Wars Episode 9 will melt your face. We might take that, but Kevin Smith, that's just something Kevin Smith would say. That's Kevin Smith saying it's amazing. Maybe surprising. But when you understand the way Kevin Smith communicates, I'm not gonna read into it too much. But I'm glad he's excited because I love Kevin Smith. Jake Air writes, will anything unseat Endgame for number one all time in the near future? I think Rise of Skywalker has a chance. Rise of Skywalker has no chance. And that's coming from a guy wearing this hat and who plays, where is it? There. This role-playing game. That's coming from me. Has no chance. It's Rise of Skywalker is going to be a big, massive hit. It's going to be a big, giant, massive hit. But I don't think it's going to join the $2 billion club. It's going to be a big, huge, money-making financial bonanza. But it's not going to break that record. No way. And again, that's coming from a guy who's wearing this hat. No way. It would be great if it did. I would love it if it did. If it's good enough, I'll be happy for it. But I don't think that's going to happen. The thing that's going to knock out Endgame out of the number one spot is Avatar. Not Avatar 2, the original Avatar, because Disney's going to re-release Avatar in advance of Avatar 2, so that the Avatar franchise will be the number one worldwide box office film, so they can use that as a part of their marketing for Avatar 2. It's just business. But yeah, they're going to Disney will re-release Avatar, and it will take back the number one spot. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what I think they're going to do because it makes the most business sense. So other than that, no. Other than Avatar and Endgame that'll probably be playing hopscotch with each other over the next little while as to which one holds the number one spot, I can't see anything else in the foreseeable future. Look, I've said this before, Jake, I'll say it again. I think the next movie that takes the number one box office spot will be like, it won't be a Star Wars film. It won't be a comic book film either. I think it'll be a movie like Titanic or like Avatar. A movie that we didn't see coming. You know, a lot of people were looking forward to Avatar, but Avatar opened to like $75 million opening weekend. Nobody saw that coming. I believe the next film to take the number one spot away from either Avatar or Avengers Endgame is going to be one of those films. A film that comes out of nowhere and shocks the world and just creates this, you know, cultural typhoon where people are going back 5, 6, average film fans are going back 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Hardcore film fans are going back 5, 6, 7 times. And everybody is bringing their families to it and everybody's going to go see it and everybody's losing their mind for it. And it captures the imagination of the pop culture like Titanic did and like Avatar did. Standalone films that kind of came out of nowhere and boom, suddenly just captured the whole pop cultural conversation. I believe the next film that does that, that's going to take that spot, is going to be one of those films. Not a Star Wars film, not a DC film, not a Marvel film. I actually think it's going to be one of those. I don't know that for a fact, but that's kind of what I feel like right now. Murray Reich writes, I hate when my friends or coworkers take things out of context to what I say and then later on it backfires on me. I can't imagine what you go through. Oh my God, Murray, you have no idea. You have no idea. You know, one of the things that I learned that you need to do, I learned very early from communication experts, because I'm very big on being a communicator. And so I would study communicators. And one of the things that I often heard, one of the things people will criticize me for, and I get it, is sometimes when I'm making a point, I will repeat a point several times. But I do that consciously and on purpose because it's effective. It drives a point home, but also, Murray, because I find when I do not repeat a significant point or something that really needs to be kept in mind, if I don't repeat it, I will often get people coming back to me going, John, how come you said this? Idiot. I didn't say that. I specifically said another thing, but I only said it once. And so they don't hear that. So I learned a long time ago that repetition on important points that I need or that you need your listener to keep in mind, there's a lot of value in repetition. Now, some people tell me that, John, you shouldn't repeat yourself. I'll tell you what, I think it's worked for me for 13 years. I'm going to continue doing that because it's effective. And I have seen the fallout from people who don't pay attention when I don't drive home a point by repeating it several times. Murray, oh my God, you have no idea. And look, you have to do it with your friends, right? I do it in front of 40,000 people every day. You know, this channel's got like 4 million times a month this channel will get viewed. And that's 4 million opportunities for people to take what I say out of context and twist it, and it happens every day. But it doesn't grind me because I get it. That's part of it. I've been in this business long enough. I know that's what happens, right? Like, for instance, it doesn't matter how many times I explicitly say, hey, look, there are people out there who don't like The Last Jedi. For the vast majority of them, it's because they're film fans and they watched the movie and it didn't work for them, and that's totally fine. But there are some people who, by their own words, make it pretty clear that they just hate the fact that there's women and there's a black guy in the movie or whatever. They're the minority. But those people are out there, and we see them in their comments, and we see them that's out there. Majority of people who don't like The Last Jedi, it's because they watched the movie and it didn't work for them. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Doesn't matter how many times I say that. And I have to repeat it over and over and over again. But there are still brain dead skull fucks out there who will say, John Campea says anybody who doesn't like The Last Jedi is a sexist and a racist. It's like, oh, for fuck's sakes. That's clearly not what I said. That's clearly not what I said. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so, I will often, whenever the issue of like Last Jedi comes up, I will make a point to re-emphasize and restate what I have always said. The majority of people who don't like that movie just didn't like it because, as a film fan, they watched it and it didn't work for them. Nothing wrong with that. But there are some, which is undeniable and beyond refute, there are some people out there who you can just see it in their own writing. There are some who clearly have an issue with women and clearly have an issue with people who aren't white. Because that's all they ever talk about, is the fact that the women's stuff and the fact that people aren't white stuff. It makes it clear. But they're the minority. Majority people will, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it does become a very, very frustrating experience. But you know what? I just realized, I learned over the years, because I've been doing this now on for 13 years. I've been doing this. Well, I mean, really, since I started as a hobby, I've been doing it for 16 years now. Since I started doing it as a hobby, but I've been doing it for a living for over a decade now. Almost 13 years I've been doing it for a living. What I've learned is that it's almost unavoidable. All you can do is try to mitigate it by appealing to the common sense people, by communicating your point firmly and repetitively. And that's part of the reason why I do that. But, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There are people out there that no matter how much I criticize, I mean, it happened again the other day. It was crazy. No matter how much I criticize certain things done by Warner Brothers, I will still have people accusing me of being on Warner Brothers payroll. Because how dare I like Batman versus Superman? How dare I like Shazam that much? How dare I love Man of Steel? How dare I say that I enjoyed Suicide Squad? I mean, and I can go on about how, look, I don't like the way they handled the Ben Affleck situation. I don't like the way they've done this. I don't like the way they've done that, but it doesn't matter. All they care about is that I said I like Man of Steel, therefore I'm on Warner Brothers payroll. Same thing goes for Disney. You know, it doesn't matter that I don't like the prequels, you know, talking about Star Wars. It doesn't matter that I don't like the prequels. It doesn't matter that I hate this new hire that they made of this person with no producer experience, no real producer experience, has only been a full-fledged producer or executive producer on one film ever, and now they're the head of live action production for Star Wars. It doesn't matter that I criticize that and went off on how upset I was about that as a fan. It doesn't matter that I say that I don't like Clone Wars. It doesn't matter that I say I have problems with The Last Jedi. None of that matters. None of that matters. I like The Last Jedi when somebody didn't. Therefore, I'm a Disney shill. You know? I say I love The Lion King, but it doesn't matter that I've been extremely critical and gave negative reviews to, like, Wrinkle in Time, Nutcracker in the Four Realms, Dumbo. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All they care about is that they heard me say that I like The Lion King when they didn't. I mean, so you're right, Murray. It's something that I do have to deal with. But fortunately for me, it was when I was at AMC that I just realized and accepted that no matter what I do or say, and for those of you aspiring to do this sort of thing, it's a good lesson for you to learn. And it's something that after I learned it at AMC, I started instructing everybody that worked for me in this as well. That no matter what you do or say, there are going to be people out there who don't like what it is you're saying, will take you out of context. They'll hate what you're doing. They'll hate what you're saying. And you just got to accept that that's part of it. You just got to accept that that's part of it. And let it not bother you, because it's part of the deal. It's part of the deal. Accept it, move on. And for the most part, I have. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are still things now and again that will get under my skin a bit, but for the most part, It's not worth it. It's not worth my hassle. It's not worth my energy, and it's not worth my attention, to be frank with you. But you just have to accept that those things are out there. And I'm cognizant of that, and that's fine. That's fine. I'll still be here, you know. I had like 4 or 5 YouTube channels dedicated to how much they hated me and my stuff like 4 or 5 years ago. None of them exist anymore, but I'm still here. I've been doing this, and every year I keep getting people telling me that that I'm not going to be here a year from now. 16 years later, here I am. But it's part of it, Murray. It's part of it. And it's not just people who are on YouTube. You got to accept that that's going to be just part of your everyday existence as well. There are going to be people who take what you say out of context. There are people who are going to take only parts of what you say while ignoring the other parts of what you say that give context to what it is that you're saying. You don't have to have a YouTube channel or a podcast or a blog or anything to be a part of that. That's part of the reality. That's part of the reality. So it's frustrating, but just smile. Don't let it bother you and just move on and keep doing your thing. I mean, that's just the best thing you can do. Anyway, went on about that long enough. Xplay 101 writes, thanks to the natural rage culture of the internet, does it ever get tiresome having to give a quick praise of something or someone before critiquing it? No, I think that's just me. Look, see, here's the thing, Xplay. We are in a 10-10-10 or 0-0-0 culture right now, where everything is either 10-10-10-10-10-10, it's perfect, this is the best thing ever, or it's 0-0-0, this is the worst thing ever. That's the culture we live in right now. I have never subscribed to that. So when there's a movie that I really like, I don't like everything about it, and I'll talk about the things I don't like. I love Lion King, but I'll talk about some of the things that don't work for me. You know, that Beyonce line about I laugh in the face of danger. Oh, not good part. The entire Beyonce song about that. Like, I'll talk about the things that I don't like. That's not me trying to assuade the, as you put it, the natural rage culture. That's just me not being a 10-10-10-0-0-0 person. That's the way I've always done it. You know? If there's movies I don't like X-Men Dark Phoenix, the fact of the matter is there are good things about the movie, to me at any rate. There were things about the movie that I did like, and so I will mention those things. I'll say, hey, look, right off the top, I liked certain things about it. I thought this was a good element about the movie. I thought this was a good element of the movie. I thought this was a good element of the movie. Now, let's talk about the bad things, because overall I don't think the film was very good, and here's why. That's not trying to curtail to the natural rage culture. That's just refusing to be a part of it and saying, I get everybody, because right now, like seriously, there are so many, and I've noticed this for the past 5 or 6 years, there's so many blogs and podcasts and YouTube channels that just, this sucks, and here's everything that sucks, or this is the best thing ever, and it's like, there's never any balance to it. For me, for the things that I love the most, I'll talk about some of the things that I didn't like about it. And for the things that I hate the most, I'll talk about the positives that are in it. Not because I feel like you have to provide balance. No, it's just because that's what I thought, and therefore I want to communicate it. But I can see why it would look that way, X-Play, because we live in a 10-10-10-0-0-0 culture. Everything's at perfect 10 or it's an absolute 0. And I've just never been that way, nor will I ever kind of subscribe that way. I have my own thoughts about movies, and I'm going to communicate them all, the pros with the cons, and the cons with the pros. So, yeah, that's just the way I like to communicate. It's because that's the way my head works. And whether that's the way your head works or not, whatever. Whether that's right or wrong, whatever. But that is the way I work. So that's just kind of the way. Calvin Black Deer writes, 20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stay that way? That's a great line. It's a great line. And one of the reasons why I love that line so much in Batman versus Superman is because of the overall reason why I love Ben Affleck's, that incarnation that Ben and Zack Snyder created, their incarnation of Batman in that movie. That line speaks to it. Because again, to me, it speaks to the whole notion that they understood, Ben and Zach understood, that Batman is the real individual. Bruce Wayne is the fake mask. That Bruce Wayne died in that alley and Batman was born. And Batman has been wearing this false Bruce Wayne face ever since. And it was lines like that that re-emphasized to me that, you know what? These guys get it. They get it. And that's part of the reason why that Ben Affleck incarnation of Batman is my favorite of all time. I'm not saying it's the best Batman of all time, but it is my favorite incarnation of Batman of all time. And little lines like that, Calvin, are part of the reasons why. All right, William Cook just sends in a super chat. Thank you, William. Jason Rios writes, do you think Thor 4 and Doctor Strange 2 can be billion-dollar films? Any film can be a billion-dollar film. Is it likely? I think coming off of Ragnarok and the role that Thor played in both Infinity War and Endgame, there's a pretty good chance. Doctor Strange 2, it's possible, but I wouldn't give it a super high chance. But it doesn't mean to be, look, the billion-dollar mark is not the measuring stick of success. You can be a $685 million movie and you're a big hit. As long as your name isn't Avengers and as long as your name isn't Justice League, then that's maybe your ceiling should have been higher. But for almost any other film, you make 670 million, 600, that's a big hit. So I think if I had to pick one out of two, I think it's more likely Thor does, but any film can be a billion-dollar film. I mean, hell, Aquaman. I never thought that would make $1 billion. Hell, I didn't think Aquaman would make $800 million. And look what happened. It became $1 billion film. So yes, both of them can be. I think Thor 4 is the more likely. Spirit Man Studios writes, what if the hammer Jane has is from a result of Cap's final time travel trip? Well, Spirit Man, then Jane's hammer will be a result of Cap's final time travel trip. I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking. If you're going to ask a question that starts with what if, make sure you actually include a question. Because when you say what if, you're saying, okay, here's the scenario. Now what's the question? Okay, so what if the hammer Foster has is a result of Cap's final trip? And what's the question? So you got to follow that up. You can't just write what if and then leave it at that. You got to say what if. Pretend, here's the best way I like to describe it to people. Take out the word, and when thinking about it in your head, take out the word what. Because if you take out the word what, then you know you've got to add the extra question. Because if you just wrote, if the hammer Foster has is from result of Cap's final time travel trip, ... could that be blah, 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 or would that mean blah, blah, blah? You can't just write what if because there's not really a question. You're creating scenarios. So the answer to your question is, what if the hammer Foster has is a result of Cap's time travel trip? Then the hammer that Foster has is a result of the time travel trip. Got to make sure you ask me the question so I can make sure I'm answering what it is you're looking for. So just make sure next time you put in an actual question with it. Jared McBride writes, with the NFL preseason coming in a couple of weeks, will the Cleveland Browns make the playoffs this year? I have no doubt. There are people out there calling them to win the Super Bowl this year. And I'm like, okay, well, just slow your roll a little bit. Just pump the brakes a touch. That might be a little bit, but make the playoffs? Oh, hell yes. Last year, they came within a couple of yards of making the playoffs. I mean, and I said last year, I thought they would win, I thought they would win 8 games last year when they'd only won 1 game in the previous 2 seasons. And I thought they would win 8 games last year, and they did. I think absolutely they make the playoffs this year. Barring a monumental collapse of some sorts, I think they make the playoffs. I think predicting them in the Super Bowl is a little bit of getting ahead of ourselves, but I do see them making the playoffs. They made some great strides. Jubilera writes, hey, John, are you a soccer fan? Honestly, not really. When the World Cup comes on and Italy's in it, I will watch it. I'll break out the Italian flag, wrap it around myself, and cheer on the Italians. But honestly, and I played a little bit of it in school, but honestly, I got to admit, I'm not much of a soccer fan myself. But it is the world's biggest sport, no doubt. Jack Drees writes, ever seen Gotti starring John Travolta? Not good. No, I took a pass on it. I don't have to take everybody's word for it, but I did hear from everybody that's terrible, and it didn't look at all appealing to me, so why would I waste my time watching it? But you're not the only one, Jack, calling it not good. All right, next up, The Hero writes, John, would you prefer a successor sequel a successor sequel to Back to the Future, like new characters finding the DeLorean, or a complete retelling with new characters? Honestly, I would just rather a reboot. I would just rather a reboot with a new Marty and a new Doc and a new Biff, and I would rather just a reboot. But if the two options are a successor of new kids finding the DeLorean or a complete retelling with new characters, I'll be honest with you here, I don't like either of those options really, but I guess I would go with a complete retelling with new characters. The idea of the continuity as it is, just with new kids finding the DeLorean, nah, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. Neither of them work for me, to be honest, but I guess I would lean towards the one. William Crook writes, what is your favorite song from Scarface? Mine is Push to the Limit. Oh, dude, I don't remember. I don't remember. I mean, I've seen Scarface 4 or 5 times. It's probably been a good 9-10 years since I've watched it. And I don't know if I can even name any of the songs in it off the top of my head. I don't think I can name any of the songs in it. So yeah, I can't even remember. Now I feel pressure that I got to go watch Scarface again just to listen to the music in it, William, which is never a bad thing. Any excuse to watch Scarface again is a good excuse. I should probably get around to doing that. All right, Noel Nguyen writes, add on HBO for Amazon. It's for convenience for one app billing account. Easy to watch everything in one app versus multiple apps and accounts. I see that, but it doesn't actually cost anything less, right? Like, it doesn't actually cost less. So, I don't know. Like, for me, I open up my Roku and I got my choice. I can go to my Netflix app, my Hulu app, my Amazon app, my HBO app, whatever, my ESPN Plus app, whatever. It's all right there. And I can right from my Roku main menu, I can click on HBO. It's actually a little bit more convoluted to have to click on Amazon, then go to the add-ons, then click on HBO, when just from my Roku screen, I can just go HBO and go, right? But if there was a price difference, then I could see it. Like if it's like $2 a month cheaper or something, if you have it as an add-on to something else, then I can see it. I don't know if I see it, Noel, as more convenient, when really it's all right there on my main menu on my Roku player. If I can just open my Roku player and it's all right there, just click play or just open that one app. That seems to me like it would be more convenient, but I guess it all depends on, I guess we all use our technology a little bit differently. And I suppose I could see how some people might go, hey, look, if I can have like 2 or 3 of the services inside one of the services, that makes things more convenient for me. I can respect that. I guess for me, that I'm so plugged into the Roku ecosphere, that just turning on my TV and there's all my apps on Roku and just clicking on the one that I want and then I'm in. But I don't know, maybe there are advantages to the other way, Noel. I mean, maybe I haven't considered that. Anyway, it's an interesting perspective you bring up, man. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. Dimsum05 writes, how do you feel about audio-only recordings of crowd reactions to Endgame? No, it's wrong, but would be lying if I said they don't bring back tears. I haven't heard any of them myself, so I can't speak to that. Personally, I mean, the cheers are one thing. I would be more interested in hearing the audio-only recordings of the audiences reacting to their favorite characters dusting. That was great. I mean, yeah, Thor showing up in Wakanda, awesome pop. The portals scene, awesome pop. But I'd be more interested in audio. But look, bottom line is, don't be that dick. Don't be that dick that you're pulling out your phone and recording anything in a theater. Number one, you're violating trust of the relationship of the theater. Like you agree when you go into a theater, you're agreeing that you're not going to do that. So you're breaking your promise already. Number two, you're violating other people's privacy. And so don't do it. I would just say don't do it. But I would say if there were legitimate authorized ones, the one I'd be most interested in is hearing people's reactions to the dusting. That's the one I'd be more interested in, to be honest with you. All right. JB Bonifacio writes, Marvel just relaunched X-Men with House of X #1. It's a perfect jumping off point for people wanting to get back into X-Men, and Hickman is a god. I heard about something like that. Again, comic books need to reset and reboot, just like movies do, right? Every once in a while. That sounds cool. You know what? I'm going to jump on my Comixology app and I'm going to download that. I haven't actually gotten anything on my Comixology app for a few months, and that sounds like something I should do. And something I should get. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, JB. I appreciate that. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, from what my understanding is, the upcoming Ghostbusters 3 is a continuation of the original and part 2. Do you think it's 15, 20 years too late? Well, it's not too late if the purpose is the passing of the torch to new characters. If it's, Dan Aykroyd, whatever, and Ernie Hudson handing off the torch to a new set of characters, then it's not too late. 15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have wanted that. We just would have wanted the Ghostbusters we already know and love. So it depends on which approach you look at it. And again, by the way, we don't know for certain what the plot of the new Ghostbusters is going to be. Being directed by Jason Reitman, by the way, which I'm very excited about. I love Jason Reitman. Good Canadian kid, by the way. So no, if understanding what the nature of the movie is, then it's not too late, because now is actually the proper time frame for them to do that passing of the torch. So it all depends. So in this particular situation, I'm going to say that I don't think this one's too late. But we'll see. Maybe it is. Maybe nobody goes to see this movie and it will prove out to be too late. So we'll have to wait and find out. Cinema Reviews writes, the other is the guy Loki talked to in Avengers 1. But that was a different timeline. So those two don't connect because that's a different timeline. So I'm not quite sure how your piece, again, I'm sure in your head you see the construct of how that works and I can't see inside your head, but on my surface, that's a different timeline. It's not the same guy. So I don't know. It all depends. Ant Banks 1984 writes, Coming to America 2, thoughts? I'm excited for it. I don't know how healthy James Earl Jones is right now. He didn't show up to the premiere of Lion King, which was a little concerning, but he wasn't there. So I don't know how healthy he is right now, but my selfish part of me is really hoping he makes at least an appearance in Coming to America 2. But I love the original Coming to America. I love that they're doing another one, and I'm very excited for it. Neo Priest Gamer DGS writes, no Jar Boy movie, sentient microphone first, go. Well, yeah, it's got to be part of the shared cinematic universe. I got to have, Something's Dick Hair. I got Jar Boy. I got Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone. I got Crab L. I got a lot of movies in the cinematic universe I got to do. Hollowed Love writes, she's your queen to be. If that's a quote from something, I'm not catching the quote, Hollowed. You got me stumped on that one. Jabalera writes, almost 1 month before Toy Story 4 opens here in Sweden. Man, it's look, I get it. Movie studios and distributors release their movies in different markets at different times because, hey, maybe this is a good time in the States, but we think this movie could do better in Sweden if it opens at this time. I get it, but that's a big window, man, between when it opened here and when it opens in your country. They got to figure out some way to tighten that up. Anyway, almost 1 month before Toy Story 4 opens here in Sweden, August 30th, it will probably be out on DVD and Blu-ray in the USA by then. It probably will. Why does it take so long for some movies to hit some foreign markets? Again, it's partially a licensing thing. I think largely it's a marketing thing because, look, they spend a lot of money, these distributors, on research and understanding when certain movies will do their best in each market. And just because a movie opening in the US on a February is what would work best in the US, that particular movie, depending what it's about, maybe they have research that shows those types of movies open better in, April in Ireland. Right? And so they'll hold it off in the UK until maybe that time. It's all about marketing. And just maximizing the effectiveness of their release in a particular market. And I get it. I do. But sometimes you just got to go. Common sense says you can't make one country wait 3 months. Will it have been 3 months or will it have been 2? For argument's sake, Larry, now let's just say 3 months. Maybe I'm wrong. But you can't have that type of a disparity. Like 2 or 3 weeks, 1 month, maybe. But at some point, you got to say, okay, marketing aside, we can't have that big of a gap between when it opens in one country and when it opens in another. We can't have that big of a gap. So, yeah, I think that's something they need to address, Jabalera. I think it's something they definitely need to address. Daryl Best Wadley writes, I really hope Eddie Murphy does the laugh in his special. He hasn't done it in years. What's your favorite movie of his? Mine is Coming to America. That's got to rank right up there. Coming to America, Trading Places. Look, I know everybody hates it. I've got a soft spot in my heart for The Golden Child. Purge me. I must be purged. I've got a soft spot in my heart for Golden Child, man. He was great in, well, I guess we're going to stick to live action stuff. It's hard to beat Coming to America. It's hard to beat the 48 Hours. Beverly Hills Cop. You know what? I might say Coming to America myself. It's a tough call, but I might go Coming to America myself as well. Roy Pledge writes, I know you don't like commenting on actors good for roles, but what about the opposite? Gilbert Gottfried as Superman. Well, again, I mean, that's just obviously, I don't know that Gilbert Gottfried is a very good actor. So for me, I mean, Gilbert Gottfried is a great comedian. I don't know that he's a good actor. So right away, I wouldn't be down for him in that. There have been several times that I think somebody's gotten a role where I'm like, I just don't think that's a talented person. I just don't think that's a talented person as an actor, and therefore I'm not down for them getting the role. And then you got to take fit into consideration too. The number one priority though is talent. So yeah, Gilbert Gottfried's Superman, wouldn't be down for that. I'd go to see any one of his stand-up routines because I think the dude's hilarious, but I don't think he's that great of an actor. So yeah, there's that. Harris writes, chances for a live action Timon and Pumbaa Disney Plus show, I'd say pretty slim. Pretty slim. That would be a very expensive endeavor, and I don't think there's the upside to it. So I'm going to guess anything is possible, is particular with Disney, but I'm going to say probably pretty slim. It would be my guess. All right. Where are we at here? Where are we? Roy L. writes, Real Genius was on this morning. Had to watch it. I love Real Genius. I'm glad it was on. I don't know what it was on, where it was on, but I'm glad you had a chance to check that out, dude. Haven't thought about that in a while. Wade O'Neill writes, thoughts on Curiosity Stream, Shudder and Broadway HD, documentary, horror, and Broadway streaming services, respectively. Are they any good? I have no idea if they're any good because I don't subscribe or watch any of them. Number one, I'm not a big horror guy, so there goes that. I'm not a Broadway show guy, so I'm not into that. You know, but I do believe there is a place for niche dedicated streaming services. Because if you are big into horror, I could see Shudder being a big deal. Look, honestly, I'm into role-playing games, right? If there was a role-playing game channel where it was like all role-playing game content, commentary, games being played, product reviews, blah, 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 that's not going to appeal to 1 billion people, but I'd be down for that and I subscribe to it. So I honestly, Wade, I haven't looked at any of this stuff. I'm aware of a lot of it, but I haven't looked at any of it because I'm not part of the niche for any of these things. But I could see there being a place if they operate financially responsibly and they understand how the limit of what their potential audience is. I think there could be a place for that sort of stuff. I really do. I really do. So I think it's good that those things at least exist. Echo Base Network writes, thoughts on Doctor Strange 2 if they were to bring past MCU characters and universes into the movie, such as Tobey Maguire? Oh no, I've gone on record about that before. I think all that was just ridiculous. Like all that sounds really good for a Saturday Night Live sketch or a 10-minute YouTube video, but honestly, I just think it just gets too nonsensical. So, I mean, you're not the first person to write that in, Echo. I've commented on this several times, and I'm not sure. I'm not saying mine is the only way to look at it, not at all, but since you're asking me, I think it's no bueno. I think no. I think it's quite a bad idea. I think it's a really, really bad idea. So I've been on record on that before. I want to see them tell real stories. I want to see them do real stuff with these fantastical characters and these fantastical worlds. I don't want to see novelty little schlocky shtick stuff like, look everybody, Tobey Maguire's back. 50-year-old Tobey Maguire's back. I'm not into that. I want to see them continue to do these really great, imaginative, solid stories and not rely on gimmicky shtick, which is all I think trying to bring back an Andrew Garfield. I love Andrew Garfield. Or bringing back Tobey Maguire. I really like Tobey Maguire. Or bringing back Wesley Snipes. No, leave that nonsense for YouTube parody stuff. I don't think it would work in a movie, to be honest with you. Coolsome XD writes, Phantom saying, see John, thank you so much, Coolsome. New Godzilla is my Man of Steel. And you know what? You're not alone, man. Look, as much as I didn't like the new Godzilla, and it has its upside, when the monsters are battling the monsters, it's awesome. But overall, I was pretty disappointed with the new Godzilla. That's me. But there are people who love this new Godzilla. And you know who one of them is? Monday through Wednesday, my co-host Monday through Wednesday, Robert Meyer Burnett. He loves that movie, man. Loves it. And so you watch it, you've got a deep appreciation for it. That's awesome. You got that appreciation level. That's great. That's the beautiful thing about films, man. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you shouldn't. And like a lot of people don't like Man of Steel, but I love it. So yeah, we all got our own Man of Steel. And if yours is Godzilla, good on you. Coolsome XT just follows up with another super chat. Thank you, Coolsome. Donnie Duck writes, Person of Interest, Season 4, Winston Duke, Crime Boss. Really? Okay, you got to understand. I love Winston Duke, okay? I love M'Baku. Give me a Disney Plus M'Baku movie showing him leading Wakanda while the king had been dusted. That's what I want to see. Get on that, Kevin Feige. Get Winston Duke in. Tell him we want to make M'Baku, steward of Wakanda. So maybe he refuses the crown. He just said, no, you're not going to call me king, but I'm going to keep this country running until we figure out how to save our king. My friend T'Challa. Give me that. I love the sounds of that. I only checked out a couple of episodes of Person of Interest, but I've heard from so many people that they absolutely love that show. By the way, guys, I'm going to throw this in right now. We've been going for 2.5 hours, and I got to get ready for the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood video we're doing at 3 o'clock. So, if you have not sent in a super chat at this point, if you have not already sent in a super chat, I'm going to ask you guys right now not to send in any super chats. If you have not already sent in a super chat, please do not send in any more because I want to get through all the ones that we have, and we still have a few we need to get through here. And then we'll wrap up today's show, but we still got a bunch you need to get through. But if you have not sent one in yet, please don't send in any more. And don't worry, though. We've got the John Campea shows tomorrow. If you've got some questions you still want to ask, come on over and ask them during the live question part of the John Campea show tomorrow. Anyway, let's keep things going here. We are at, who are we at here? Dakota writes, I think the Avengers camp is going to spray nanotech into Vision's forehead. That's how he returns to life for WandaVision. Magic nanotech. I mean, at this point, I'm not going to doubt anything that they do with their magic mystical nanotech. It doesn't matter if it's technology that's far beyond anything of human comprehension. Sprinkle in the nanotech. I don't think that's what they'll do. I think they'll come up with something else. But I got to tell you, Dakota, I wouldn't be surprised. You may not be wrong about that. I would not be surprised if they went with the magic nanotech. Okay, Chris Feldman writes, first movie I saw in theaters was Burt Reynolds' The Cannonball Run. Silly movie, but it still cracks me up, especially Dom DeLuise. By the way, I've watched a bunch of old stuff with Dom DeLuise. Dom DeLuise, there has never been another. There has never been another Dom DeLuise. That dude was hilarious. And granted, he was a bit before my time. I mean, he was still alive when I was alive. But, I mean, a lot of body of his work was around before I was really watching movies and things like that. He was just hilarious. And I get a kick out of this day of Cannonball Run. Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, man, Dom DeLuise. That's really cool that was your first theatrical experience. My first movie that I ever went to without my parents or an aunt or uncle, something like that. The first movie I ever just went to with a friend and not a parent, not an uncle or an aunt, was a Kenny Rogers movie. Kenny Rogers made movies? He made a couple. A Kenny Rogers movie called Six Pack. If any of you remember that, good on you. Okay, let's see here. What's next here? Dakoti follows up and writes, why Cap whispered assemble? He screamed Avengers, then realized everybody has an earpiece and can hear him fine. Why waste his vocal cords? Well, here's a big question for you. How the fuck did everybody have earpieces? Right? So no, seriously, that's one of the things about Endgame that makes absolutely no sense, right? Like, everybody just got undusted. Okay, whoo, just got undusted. It's a good thing that when we undusted, we had these magic earpieces, and everybody's flying around these earpieces. Like, I remember, like, Cap says, somebody get on this. And, like, Wasp, who has never talked to Captain America, and certainly didn't have a magic earpiece in her hand when she dusted, she's like half a football field away on the battlefield. She's got her earpiece, so we're on a Cap. Where the fuck did she get that? But everybody had magic earpieces that they just had to go, hey, somebody go do this. Okay, who is this? I don't know. I just undusted and I had this magic earpiece in my hand. So here we all are talking together. So you see, Dakoti, you've just solved one issue. Of, okay, well, the reason Cap didn't have to scream, because I'm like, how the hell did anybody hear him say, assemble, Avengers, assemble? How did anybody hear him? Oh, well, they had earpieces. Where'd they get the earpieces from? Again, here's the thing about Endgame. It is loaded. As much as everybody tries to talk circles around it, Endgame is loaded with logic problems. Some bigger, a lot of them just very small, nitpicky things. But Endgame is loaded with logic problems. But the thing is, the reason why I don't care really is because the payoff that we get as a result of those logic problems is worth it for me to go, I can overlook it. And while the magic earpieces is definitely one of those little logic problems, I overlook it because the overall battle is so great and everything. Who cares about where they got the earpieces from? Maybe Doctor Strange went, hey, everybody, I'm going to make magic earpieces. Woo, magic. And then he had magic earpieces, went around and handed them out to everybody. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's something I don't really worry about. But when you bring it up and mention it, it's like, yeah, where the hell did they get these earpieces? There's like 1,000 members of the Wakandan military just came through and they all got earpieces. I don't know. It's just one of those funny things, Dakoti. It's just one of those funny things. All right. Jabalera writes, have you seen the TV show Happy? So funny. Here's the thing. One of the creators and director of Happy is a friend of mine. One of the guys responsible for me meeting my wife, Brian Taylor of Neville Dean and Taylor. He's a buddy of mine. And the funny thing is, I was texting him about something else. And he wrote back to me, says, hey, by the way, have you seen Happy? And I had heard some people talk about Happy. And I didn't even realize he had directed. I had no idea he directed it. See, I was texting him about this other movie he was working on with Nicolas Cage. And I was texting him about that. And then, so I just thought he was writing me, hey, if you happen to see the show Happy. I had no idea he did the show. No idea. And it's just one of those crazy funny things. Edward Ide writes, hi from Buffalo. I like Buffalo. I used to drive into Buffalo all the time. How Marvel's What If plays out. Episode 1. What if Tony Stark were Captain America? Followed by a picture of Tony in the Captain America costume. Roll end credits. Total runtime 2 minutes. There you go, Edward. By the way, thank you for that super chat, man. That's really generous. Thank you for supporting the channel at that level. You know, I gotta say, I'm very intrigued by that show. Now, it's not part of continuity. It's being done in animated style, which is a perfect thing to do animated. I'm very curious to see what they do with this. What if Tony Stark was Captain America? Then Tony Stark was Captain America. Roll credits. There you go. Well done, Eric. But I do got to say, I am curious to see this. I don't know if it's going to be any good because traditionally I have not been big on either Marvel or DC animated stuff. There are a few exceptions that I do really like, but for the most part, I don't like DC animated stuff. I don't really like Marvel's animated stuff. But what if that could be interesting? Let's see how this turns out. I'm going to keep an open mind about it. I got to admit, I'm kind of curious about it. Suthius writes, Mr. C, that one viewer earlier was asking about Ant-Man's future with the MCU, not Aunt May. I personally think we'll see him and Wasp in Phase 5. What? Really? I thought I could have swore I saw Aunt May. Was it Ant-Man? Did I just like glance over that too fast and see Aunt May? Anyway, Ant-Man's future, and I've talked about this many times. I don't think there is a future for Ant-Man in the future upcoming MCU. I personally don't think we're going to see Ant-Man 3. And I've explained why several times. I think if we're going to see Ant-Man moving forward, he will be a secondary character in another Marvel movie. I just feel like Ant-Man's story is now played. I think his story has now been told, culminating in the part he has to play in Avengers Endgame. When you take that into consideration, the fact that even though both Ant-Man movies are big financial hits, they're still amongst the smaller of the big financial hits, and they've got all these other characters they need to make movies for now. We've got Blade coming, and we've got Shang-Chi coming, and we got Eternals coming, and then we got Fantastic Four, and then we've got a huge slew of mutants and X-Men characters and all that kind of stuff, and I just don't know that there's room for Ant-Man anymore. So, yeah, I don't think whatever future there is for Ant-Man in the MCU, I think it's going to be as another character in other MCU movies, but I don't think we're going to get an Ant-Man 3. I hope I'm wrong, because I quite enjoy the Ant-Man movies. So I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I think they're going to be doing. Okay, Darth Sidious writes, Hey, John, which piece of Star Wars prequel music is your favorite? Oh, that's easy. Duel of the Fates. Yeah, Duel of the Fates. Bum 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 bum. It's the best thing. Like, look, there are things about the prequels that I like. The lightsaber fights, the pod race, I think is outstanding. There are elements of the things I like, but I think easily the best thing to come out of the Star Wars prequels is Duel of the Fates. Duel of the Fates, by a mile. Let's see. Moorman writes, John, are you going to storm Area 51? No, and I don't think anybody is. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody is. This is a ridiculous thing. Darth Sidious writes, Hey, John, do you like football? If you do, then if America qualifies, would you support... Oh, you're talking soccer, right? Hi, John, do you like football? You mean soccer. If you do, then if America qualifies, would you support Italy or the U.S.? Italy, I'm Italian. I'm not American. I live in the U.S., but don't get me wrong. If the U.S. were to go to the finals, I would be cheering for, and they're not playing the. Look, I'll cheer for the U.S. team in every game that they're not playing Italy. But if they were to play Italy, I am Italian. My name is Giovanni, after all. My name is Giovanni, and I would be cheering for Team Italy because that's my heritage. Right? If they're playing anybody else, I'm cheering for the American team, but I will be cheering for Italy over the U.S. Let's see here. Dimsum05 writes, Search Batman v Superman saving people on YouTube. My favorite scene of the whole movie, hearing DeGrasse Tyson speaking out about Superman. Chills. All right, I'll have to go and check that out and see. Like, I know DeGrasse has a part in that movie, the little interview part, which I thought was great. But is this like something documentary, or is that just the scene you're talking about? I'll go search for that, Dimsum. I'll see what it is you're talking about there. Darth Sidious, where do we go? Darth Sidious writes, World Cup. Oh, yeah, in the World Cup. Yeah. Again, if it's anybody else that they're playing, I'm cheering for the U.S., but Italy is ultimately the team I cheer for. If they qualify this frickin' time. Forza Italia didn't even qualify last time. Heavens, good God. Anyway, Noel Nguyen writes, I get HBO on Amazon because I get billed through Amazon. That's a convenience. That's a good point, Noel, because that is a convenience, getting just one bill through the same thing you're already paying through. I get billed through Amazon, one place for billing, and if I lost my credit card, then the only one thing has to change versus several. Okay, You know what? That's a good point. I don't think it's enough to convince me to do it the other way, but that's a good point. There's a convenience to, especially if you have an Amazon account, just having everything paying through your Amazon account, and it limits the amount of times you got to go and change out your credit card number. Valid points. Those are really good observations, man. That's something I got to keep in mind. Good point. Blake Studwell writes, is Detective Pikachu the best video game movie? No. First of all, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure I qualify Detective Pikachu as a video game movie, to be honest with you. I mean, we've talked about that before, but I'm not even sure I qualify it as. But even if you do qualify it as, I didn't think Detective Pikachu was all that great. I certainly had high hopes for it. You guys know I was very excited for it. And it has its moments. It's okay. It's not a bad film. It's not terrible or anything like that, but I personally think the best video game movie, my favorite is Mortal Kombat. It's a terrible movie. Mortal Kombat is a terrible movie, but I love it. I absolutely love it. But I honestly think probably the best video game movie is the most recent, the Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's probably the best one we've ever had, in my opinion. And that's not saying much. That's not saying much at all. But I'll lean towards that, actually. All right. Let's see. Albert Gonzalez writes. Albert Gonzalez Jr. writes. Eddie Murphy and... Oh, God, I love Eddie Murphy and Bowfinger. I love Bowfinger. Him and Steve Martin. Such a good movie. Guys, highly underrated movie. Not a lot of people have seen Bowfinger. If you haven't seen Bowfinger, watch Bowfinger. It's great. Anyway, Eddie Murphy and Bowfinger, that's it. No question for you. Just wanted to remind everybody of this incredibly underrated and funny movie. Completely agree, man. Completely agree. It's such a... remember I talked a little bit earlier about how I said, I think the funniest moment in any movie was Now You See Lone Star, that evil always triumph because good is dumb. Well, listen, there's a top 10 of greatest funny moments in movies. One of them comes out of Bowfinger. And it's the scene where Steve Martin, he's trying to get a movie put together. He's like, we're going to assemble the finest crew. Money is no condition. We will spare no expense. We're going to get the finest movie crew to crew this movie we're going to make. And then it's a hard cut to Steve Martin in the desert in the back of a van with the van open, getting illegal immigrants to run into his van and close. It's so wrong, but it's so funny. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a movie. Bowfinger. Take Albert Gonzalez's recommendation there and check that out. All right. Final question today comes into us from William Cook, who just watched Coco finally. Seriously, Coco, that was the final straw for me, was Coco. Because no matter how good Pixar movies always seem to be, every once in a while, a Pixar movie comes out that I doubt. You know? I had my doubts about Ratatouille. I certainly had my doubts about WALL-E. I definitely had my doubts about Up. I don't doubt them all, and then I had my doubts about Coco. The trailers for Coco weren't that good. The movie is amazing. The movie is so good and emotional and heartfelt and wonderful and funny, and oh my God, Coco is so wonderful. And it was that one that finally made me go, F this ever again. I am never going to doubt Pixar again. I'm never going to doubt Pixar again. Ever. Now they will put out a movie sometime that will be a bad movie, and that's fine, but I am never going to doubt them going in. I am never going to fail to give them the benefit of the doubt again. Because every time I've doubted them, WALL-E, amazing. Up, one of the best animated films ever. Every time they prove me wrong, and I'm like, I'm done. I am no longer going to doubt a Pixar film again. I loved it. I'm glad you finally got around, had a chance to watch it, William. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. All right, guys. that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and being a part of it, for sending in all the questions, for giving us fun things to talk about, and for supporting the channel along the way. Do not forget, tomorrow, the John Campea Show returns. It's going to be me, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, and of course, Chris Carr is going to be joining us as well. We got a whole bunch of things we're lining up to talk about for tomorrow's show. Make sure you guys come back and join us. That's at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you can't watch us live, just watch us afterwards on my YouTube channel. Speaking of my YouTube channel, why don't you guys take a second and click on subscribe, become subscribers to my YouTube channel, keeping up to date on all the things that we got going on around here. And once again, guys, you know what? I need a little bit more of a break. I'm going to adjust today's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood open spoiler discussion from 3 o'clock to 3:30, because I thought today's show would go like 2 hours. Instead of we've gone 3. So I'm going to make the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood open spoiler discussion an hour and a half from now. So that's at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time this afternoon. If you've seen the movie and you want to come back and talk about it, open, totally spoiler filled discussion about it, come on back and join us then. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.